Hello and welcome to another episode of the Out of Spec podcast. You join us hot off our first drive of the Lucid Gravity, their new electric SUV. We are very lucky to be among the first to drive the car outside the company. These opportunities are rare and exciting and really cool. And of course, we're nerds, and Lucid, they also are, hardcore engineering company. So they love it when we come, and we love it when we go and get to nerd out about the cars and really find out as much as possible about the Lucid Gravity electric SUV. Now, today's the day we can, of course, share our drive impressions of the vehicle, but we also made a full tour video and a driving video on our Out of Spec Reviews channel. So this is sort of the supplemental laid back podcast style that me and Jordan will produce for you here today. Just talking more about the experience, probably some more details that didn't make it in the main video. And just in general, our experience driving the new Lucid Gravity. So Jordan's going to tell us a little bit about the car, how important it is to Lucid as a company, because that's not to be understated. This is really an important car. And I think our trip to Lucid more or less was getting a finger on the pulse of the company, more than even just the driving dynamics of the Gravity. So Jordan, let's back up for a second. Tell us about the Air, the Gravity, where this sits in the marketplace, and then we'll talk about our experience.
Right. We've been following Air for a long time. We've had an Air for a while now, a little over 3 months. And part of this trip was also you returning the Air. We should have a whole separate podcast on road tripping and stuff and final thoughts of the Air, because that was a pretty eye-opening experience as well. And just even seeing how a couple months with the Air, we were able to see the impression of software updates in the car evolving over time.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude, because it was 3 months we had the car, and it was a completely different car when we gave it back than when we got it. That's not actually that unusual for us.
Right.
Because we're so used to Tesla and Rivian getting it right, but it really seems like Lucid is picking up the pace on software.
Yeah, and you're right. Going to see their headquarters and talk to a lot of Lucid people. A lot of Lucid people came up to us. They had seen the videos, they had heard the feedback, and they want to act on the feedback. And they are pushing things fairly quickly, which is nice to see, because some of the bigger companies seem to run a bit slower with some of those changes. So
literally any German company,
right? And even some of the Detroit companies. It's a struggle. So I'm excited to see, and like you said, just getting a finger on the pulse of what they're doing really helps our excitement for the company as well, because it seems like the people there are genuinely passionate, and that's what we want to see.
Yeah, I mean, when we got the Air and when we initially reviewed the Air's been massively improved since when it launched, and just in general, that car is the longest range car we've ever tested, the highest peak charging sedan we've ever tested. Not to say it has a great charging curve, but 350 plus kilowatts on that thing. Like, it has some really impressive numbers.
Right.
And what's interesting, though, is the Air is still based off of decisions that were made probably 6, 7, 8 years ago, before they were even selling cars with a small team. The exciting thing about Gravity is, well, they know what everyone thought about the Air. They know what we liked, not just me, but customers, media. They know what people liked. They know what people didn't like. And now we actually get to see for the first time their response in their new car as to, okay, what's different. So like right off the bat, which we'll get into, is like completely different software. And user interface, completely different. And also, building on some things that Air was really great at, driving dynamics wise. Now it opens up new dimensions with air suspension for the first time. It's funny enough that the Lucid Air doesn't have air suspension. And I know I'm jumping around a bit, but it's funny. They told us that some of the Air prototypes actually did have air suspension.
Yeah. And then at some point they removed the Air from the Air, which was crazy. So to keep with the puns, I hope Lucid understands the gravity of the situation, because it seems like the company is riding on this SUV in a lot of ways. A lot of headlines recently of like, oh, Lucid, financials are stressful, and it's hard to keep track of that. It's hard to quantify what really, really matters.
Yeah, we're not good company analysts. I mean, it's just not something we put effort into. We're very product driven here.
Yeah.
And so, I don't care personally as a consumer. Like, it matters to me zero if the company makes money on the purchase of the car. Now, obviously I want them around so that if I buy one, then service is there, but it's not like we are locked in the stock world, digging into the vehicle, health. I actually think they can weather gravity either way. I think really the future rides on mid-size for them.
Yeah.
Is my impression, especially after talking to everyone there.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, the company resources are get gravity out and then all hands on mid-size.
Yeah, it's like, so how soon will mid-size come? But I guess to focus on gravity, we first saw this about a year ago at the unveil at the LA Auto Show, where they, showed it off. It was gorgeous. Well, a little bit polarizing there. Some people don't like how it looks. Some people say it's too minivan-y. I think bring minivans back. Like, it's cool.
I don't really think it looks like a minivan.
I see some of that. I see why some people could be like, oh, like Kia Carnival proportions and stuff, but it works. Like, it's a functional shape. It's a bit boxy, but still sleek. It's just
the back end is boxy. The back end's awesome.
It to me fixes some of my design issues with Lucid Air. So I'm actually just totally thrilled about Gravity. I was nervous to see, well, not really that nervous because we knew it would drive well because Lucids just drive well. But
right.
we were like, okay, is this really going to drive that well? Or is this just like a compromised Air is what we were afraid of.
What's crazy is it's a completely different platform than Air.
Yeah, which does make it more expensive to create, but also makes it less compromised. And that's their whole mantra. Compromise nothing. So we went into this trying to think, okay, where are the compromises? Because there's going to be some. But
okay, so even back up a second. I drove our Air out to California to turn it in. It was the end of our test with the Lucid Air. 3 months, over 3 months, 15,000 miles, just over. And really, we learned so many things we love about that car and so many things we don't love about that car.
Right.
And I think we've done a good job of presenting them, maybe in long videos, yes, but that's our style. But what I thought was really interesting was when we showed up, to your point, so many people there. Not just executives, but just people that were like on their way into the office who's like, we met the guy who's like responsible for mobile key and the other guy is responsible for the physical key. And they're like, dude, we watched your videos and like, here's why the car was doing that. Here's our logic and here's where we will fix it based off of your feedback.
Yeah. As we rolled up, people were like, oh, we want to go run logs on your car and figure out what was going on.
Yeah, just guys with laptops just ran to it to get data, but they can get most of it remotely, but they were also running tests. It was really cool to see all the response to the videos and stuff.
Yeah, so my excitement for Lucid tends to be recursive, but I guess bringing it back down to what Gravity is, when they unveiled it, they said over 440 miles of range. Now we know that means like 450. Cargo space up to,
and that's 450 EPA. That's the number they can actually share now. So it's 10 more. They did the same thing with Air when it launched. Under promise, over deliver on the range. Range is the big thing for them. We'll talk more about that. Why I don't necessarily agree with it, but yeah.
Right, yeah. And over up to 120 cubic feet of storage capacity, which is huge. For reference, this is about the same dimensions of a Rivian R1S, close to a Model X as well. But the Rivian R1S peaks at 100 cubic feet.
It was like 99?
99 point something. So this is like a solid amount more than Rivian R1S.
Yeah, like 15% more for the 7-passenger and 20% more because it's 120 cubic feet without the third row, which is optional.
Yeah. And the third row folds into this cool under trunk storage space, just like a Chrysler Pacifica, which a lot of people say this also looks like a Pacifica. I don't quite see that, but cool that they have the stow and go situation.
What's crazy is I fit in the third row easily, and that third row can fold in the underfloor to create this perfectly flat load space, and it is very minivan-ish on the inside, which is a very big compliment to the car.
Yeah, so it's a huge interior cabin space, huge glass roof as standard. We'll, of course, look at the configurator in a minute, but seating for up to 7. It is touted as the 7-seat SUV, but when 7 seats are the optional version that you have to pay extra for, I don't know if I could say it's like a 7-seat SUV, but I think most people would probably opt for that. It's not that much extra when you factor in the release price of this car starting at $95,000, nearly $100,000 once you do one option. Okay,
tell me about that, because when they first unveiled the car, it was supposed to be under $80,000.
Yes, and that's typical market, but especially Lucid. They're like, you get all the range, all the performance, and all the efficiency for this low price. And there's no way to get all those things. You can eventually, starting late next year, you'll be able to configure the Touring, which I guess will be the cheaper one.
So we're like a year away.
Yeah, which that's even maybe not even the cheapest. I don't know. They might do a Pure and Touring just like they do with Air. So we don't even know when the cheapest one's going to come. Will it be like the $35,000 Model 3? I don't know.
In the sense that it may come for a short period of time and go away.
Just to say they did it.
We don't know.
And they were striving for the under 80,000 thing, probably partially because of the tax credit situation, which may also be going away. So there's a lot of things we don't know. All we can focus on is what is coming to market immediately. Immediately is a scary word, by the way, because this didn't feel quite ready.
Well, we drove and we played around with an early one.
Yes.
It was an engineering buck. It had, like hodgepodge, soft tooling. Like it was not a car that was built on the production line.
And we know they can make a good, like we've seen with Air, 15,000 miles on our Air in 3.5 months, 0 rattles. Like we've seen how they can build.
Well, and the build quality is massively improved. Like on our early Lucid Air, my dad's car, that we purchased, I don't even know how long ago we had it, but that car was rattly. I mean, Timon, you were in that car. Timon's here, by the way, for those who don't know.
Hello.
And we cannonballed that one, and that car was not a rattle trap, but it made some noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to Lucid's degree is Dave also took apart the headliner to hard mount
that strip.
Detector, but other than that, it still rattled a lot more than this one currently does. So they've really moved forward in their build quality and everything else besides maybe charging logistics.
Yeah, charging still the main question mark. Gravity should have a much improved charging profile. We'll talk about that in a bit too. But so we, the thing is, like, Lucid Air is their first model. It feels like while they're still improving it, they're still focusing on it. At least the main focus of the company, based off what we could deduct. I don't know if you feel this way, but it was, we were returning our Air and we wanted to talk a little bit about our Air, and certainly they were willing to do that and they were taking all of it, but they're like, okay, gravity. Right. And so it's like, I think they're like, we need to sell Air. Like they still need to sell that car. And it is selling pretty well, actually. They were saying it outsold Model S and Taycan. In the US
market, which is the key thing there.
And Taycan just had a refresh, and Model S is the weakest it's ever been, from a competitive set. So yeah.
So they've been able to tweak. You can tweak data almost any way you want. And so yes, Lucid's had record deliveries quarter on quarter, but they're also still not even reaching 10,000 cars per year yet, which is a small number.
Next year is 9,000 for Air.
This year should be about 9,000. Is what they're quoting. Okay. But we'll see. But yeah, I'm hoping. And I don't think they'll leave any sort of Air customers out to dry. They even have, the new refresh Air that we've been testing, the 2025 model, has faster chip. They've said that chip should be able to go back into earlier Airs for the infotainment and stuff to make it really snappy and just make your car feel more modern again.
Yeah, they seem to really have an emphasis on trying to improve the existing fleet of cars. And so while the company focus, especially as we're gearing up to start of production, is on Gravity right now. That's, where it really should be. I think a lot of the improvements we're going to have in Gravity will also benefit Air customers.
Yeah. And Gravity does feel not quite like a second gen vehicle, but you can see how they've just built on the things. We've seen this in other brands too, where it's like Model Y came out and it wasn't just Model 3 but bigger. They had made improvements with development and big giga casting and stuff. So the same things here. Like they've learned with the screen situation, the software, like you said, it is different but still familiar. It's still very Lucid. It's just better in many ways.
So let's talk about the powertrain of Gravity really quick. 120 kilowatt hours is 2 kilowatt hours more than what's in the Air GT.
Yep.
And it is essentially the same pack layout in terms of cells wired in parallel and series. And it is, I can't remember, was it 22 modules? I can't remember exactly how many modules. We could calculate it, but it's 924 volts full charge.
Yep.
And So it's basically the same battery as the Air. It's like a next generation, a third generation of that typical cell evolution from one of the, they wouldn't tell us exactly what supplier, but we'll find out at some point. I'm sure it's in the, actually hard coded in the data. Shane knows how to get it off the Lucids. And so it's either Panasonic, LG, or Samsung is what I think Lucid's used in the past. And the cell manufacturers always offer the newer, later graded cell, and it's possible the Air will get that cell.
Yeah.
What's different about the battery pack itself is they've changed the module positions from being under, like they have the main base battery pack, and then the large battery pack, which is what this is launching with, the 120 kilowatt hour. They have 2 extra modules that they have to put on top, like in a double stacker configuration.
Yep.
But it's only for a short, a 1.5 foot wide section. In the Air, it's underneath the rear seats.
Yep.
In the Gravity, it's underneath the front seats.
Right.
And that is so that the rear seats can fold all the way down in Gravity. And you're already in an SUV, so you want a little bit higher seating position is fine. And actually, I'm very particular on seating position, and I'll just mention right now, ergonomically, this car is 100 times better than the Air. I actually feel like I could sit low, felt great.
Yeah.
The steering wheel came, okay, I wish it came out like another 2 inches, but it was acceptable, and the armrests were higher up, and I got in that thing, I'm like, oh, damn, this is awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a dual motor configuration. I guess they'll have a rear motor eventually, but right now launching Grand Touring, dual motor, 828 horsepower, 909 pound-feet of torque.
Which is more than our Air.
More than Air. Spicy.
By like 10 horsepower.
Yeah, 9.
9 horsepower. So it's like very
close.
Very close. Slightly
heavier,
yeah, different gear ratio. They went for the shorter gear ratio on
Yep.
the rear for off-roading.
Yeah.
And so it's basically the Pure ratio.
Yes.
I didn't know the Pure had a different ratio than the Touring and Grand Touring.
I didn't either. And then they took, what they've learned from Sapphire as far as like calibration things to take into the Gravity, which will help improve off-road performance.
Right. So all of that in-motor longitudinal wheel speed control that you can do without the lag time of waiting on an ESP controller. We talk about this with Tesla a lot. They do something similar. They developed all of the in-house ESP tuning for Sapphire, and now they're able to take that, and they actually use that in Pure, which is interesting. And now they can use that in Gravity. So you have much quicker response time, much better ESP tuning. And I felt that in our dynamic drive of the Gravity, just the ESP tuning was 100 times better than our Air, which in the Air, I'd normally just go off because it's quite intrusive, the ESP, and it grabs the brake. It doesn't really do what I want it to do. The wheel slip happens, then it catches. And in Gravity, we only drove the car for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But it was so much better, and the one pedal driving was better. And so it's just like, oh my gosh, all of the complaints about the Air, maybe not all, but are certainly fixed. We'll get into some negatives because we do have some concerns about the Gravity, without question. But, going on the experience is like powertrain of Gravity, certainly next generation.
Yep.
And 450 miles of range from 120 kilowatt hours is EPA rated 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour.
Which is great. I mean, I don't know how often you'll see that exact number. Of course, variables exist, and that's what we've seen with our Air. Like, they tout the Air as being very efficient, and you can be efficient with it, but in a lot of driving scenarios, especially road trips when you kind of want the efficiency, you really have to keep the speeds down to get that good efficiency. Either way, though, this will still beat R1S efficiency easily.
Dude, in night and day. I can't wait to run them side by side.
Yeah.
Because R1S has a bigger battery.
Yep.
Well, let's think about Escalade IQ for a second.
Okay, yeah, they compared it to that too.
So Escalade IQ, it's actually just hit dealers. So I guess it is on sale. Are they on the market? We got to go to our Cadillac dealer. It has a 215 kilowatt hour usable battery pack. GM says 205, but we pulled 215 out of them because it's the double stacker 24 module. That gets 10 miles more EPA range than the Gravity. So okay, in daily driving, that seems like a waste. That's dumb range, as they would say.
Yep.
I would argue if you're going to tow, I'd still take the bigger battery.
If you're towing, that's kind of smart range in some ways.
Yeah,
but because it's like what you need. Like towing, you just need more fuel.
I'm just like, give me the Gravity with 200 kilowatt hours.
Right.
Make it 800 mile range.
But if you're road tripping, they made the point that technically, yes, the Escalade IQ can fit more things in it. But like for so many people, this is plenty of storage space. I mean, people can road trip Rivian.
No, I don't think Escalade IQ has more storage space. It was the Suburban.
Oh, right.
The combustion Suburban was 144 cubic feet.
Yeah. Huge. But
I don't think we know the dimensions of Escalade IC yet.
Yeah. But this is, not much smaller. Still plenty of storage space. And just the fact that you're road tripping, notably DC fast charging while road tripping, it's not that cheap. So if you're using twice as much energy to go the same distance, I mean, it does hurt your pocketbook a bit.
Dude, road tripping an electric car is not that much cheaper than driving a gas car.
Yeah.
And anyway, let's get back to the Gravity. Okay, Gravity. So we went for a presentation
Yep.
We walked inside. We had a 2-hour time slot, which turned into 3 hours.
3.5.
3.5 hours. They put us at the last of the day.
Which helped because we were one of the only ones filming, so
right. So
time
Jason Camisa was before us, but I think he's writing an article, maybe a podcast from his side.
Definitely. Yeah.
Banked was there from Green Car Reports. We saw Dan Edmonds, who is a great chassis suspension guy. That's who we saw. I know they're bringing it to LA, so you'll see like Lieberman will drive it. A few other the LA people will have a go, but as far as we know, we're the only video people
at the moment.
Yeah, who knows who they get in? I don't know. Doesn't matter. But at least it's really cool that we might have a exclusive or close to exclusive video first drive. I really felt like the video came out terribly from our side. The drive was, these are so condensed, and it's like I literally the moment I drove it was the first time I sat in it. I'm like, I want to figure this thing out, and we were on a time crunch.
Yeah, we needed a whole day to do a video, and so whatever we come up with is going to be hodgepodge, but still a lot of good information. It won't be like super clear and perfectly organized and stuff, but it's still all bleeding edge info, which everyone's kind of grasping at. Like everyone wants to know what's going on with Lucid. Whether you're an owner, a lot of Air owners are eyeing the Gravity, but also a lot of other people who have been eyeing the 3-row market, not making decisions yet, sticking with their maybe Suburban or something, and they're waiting to see what comes out that they could replace with.
So we go for a presentation and we meet with Derek and Dave, so head of design, head of software, and they start walking us through this, I don't know, vehicle, segmentation. How does it fit? How do they believe it fits against the competition?
Yep.
Which was interesting. And they're like, and it's in a class of its own, and it's hard to compare. And I'm like, yes, but it also depends on the use case.
Right.
Because like on one hand, it can tow 6,000 pounds, and you can compare this to a Rivian in towing, and it can't tow quite as much as R1S, but over 5,000 pound towing is awesome.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, it's like, okay, it's not like a super sporty SUV, but they were like, it's almost as sporty as an Aston Martin DBX 707.
Yeah.
Which is high praise. I mean, that's a pretty spicy meatball.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, they're like, okay, I don't know. They just had all these different vehicles laid out. I probably would have placed them a bit differently. They had like the Model X on the sporty side. I'm like, I don't know, I've driven one of those fast. It's not that sporty. No track mode, nothing like that. But what else did they go through that presentation? They really took us through the ethos of the car. It was a lot of
they're very proud of, the frunk is now bigger. It's a bigger car, and you can now do frunking, as they call it. The frunk has a cutaway that makes it for easier access. R1S, R1T, you have to reach in, like over and in. This one is kind of more like the Lightning, like we see on Lightning and Silverado, where it's just easier access. It lowers the load height. They also talked about
it cuts into the bumper,
right,
so that you don't have to, so you could just slide stuff in, and the front trunk's very spacious in this.
Yeah, and to do that, they had to cut the lighting elements, reshape the lighting. It's not just Lucid Air lights on the front, although they look similar.
It's still the same micro lens array technology, which is really cool tech. They claim, as far as they can tell, this is what Peter Rawlinson told us, the most efficient headlight on the market.
Yeah.
But it produces so much heat.
Yeah, we couldn't really tell if the Gravity had the same fan issue, like the loud fans on the headlights.
What?
Could you hear them?
What? I didn't know the Lucid Air had fans on the headlights.
You turn the lights on the Air, and you get annoyed by the high-pitched whine
of the ECU for the light.
The ECU, yeah.
Couldn't tell on the Gravity.
Yeah, so
but what they do have cooling. So in the Air, when you drive, the air, the physical air, not the car, comes through the headlights and out through like an exhaust chamber on the hood, and that cools the drivers for the LEDs.
Yeah,
but no fans as far as I know, just ECU noise and air.
Yeah.
And as far as we can tell, these are similar headlights, so I really hope they fix that.
Yep.
But I didn't drive the car with the headlights on.
Yeah. But otherwise, they showed us some of the interior, and we did a good walkthrough of the interior with our video, really showing the space, of course, how you fit in this first, second, third rows. Even the little tray tables in the back of the first row seats, which go for the second row. So you can bring your own device, as they call it. They didn't build screens or anything like we've seen with Mercedes and Rolls-Royce and stuff, because they know those will just be outdated very quickly.
But they do have a rear screen for climate control.
They do, similar to Rivian and Tesla.
Is that optional?
It's optional.
Okay.
Yes.
Weird.
Yeah.
That should be standard.
Yeah. We'll get into the configurator where I think a lot of things should be standard.
I think even so, just back to the headlights for a second, Jordan. In the Air, they have 5 modules per side. So 10 projector beams, low beam, high beam. In the Gravity, they moved the single high beam portion. So now there's 4 per side down into the bumper.
Yep.
So you have a dip beam and a main beam. So main beam, high beam is now in the bumper, which also supports adaptive driving beam matrix with certification to come. So through a software update, they will support ADB.
Which will be awesome.
And in Europe, they already do support matrix functionality.
Right.
Which is great. Tesla still has not enabled it here. Right now, at least at the time of this recording, because I know Tesla's working on it, Rivian is the only vehicle on sale in our market that supports adaptive driving beam matrix function. Another thing on the outside of the car, just thinking for a second, there's a couple weird oddities on the outside. Mm-hmm. From what we heard some conflicting reports on the charge ports.
Yes.
So the U.S. cars will get a NACS port as standard.
On the driver's rear.
On the driver's rear, matching Tesla.
Yep.
So you can back into a supercharger. It's going to work just fine. They wouldn't tell us how fast it would charge on a version 4 supercharger. Or sorry, version 3 supercharger.
Yep.
So, the Tesla chargers that are capped at a voltage of, I don't know, under 500 volts, the vibe I got was it's going to charge way better than the Air.
Yeah.
So they're like, don't worry.
Yeah.
It may not get the peak rate like you would get on an 800 or 1,000 volt capable. You would need a 1,000 volt capable DC charger for this.
Right.
But it's going to be, it's not going to be 45 kilowatts like the Air gets. So that's a really big piece of information.
Yep.
And they said we'd hear more early next year.
Yep.
But from what I can deduce, it has an 80 amp onboard charger that allows you to set amperage maximum, which is very different than the Air.
Yeah, that was one of our complaints with the Air.
Yes, and hopefully the Air will get that through over-the-air software update because it still has the Wonder Box in there. And also we'll do bidirectional through NACS, and it's AC bidirectional.
Right.
Just like Tesla.
Right.
Which is really smart. I'm a huge fan of AC bidirectional rather than DC bidirectional.
Yeah.
People make very valid arguments as to why DC bidirectional is better, but I'm glad Lucid's going AC bidirectional. The European cars and the Middle East cars will get a front driver's side CCS2 charging port.
Yep.
However, someone, I can't remember who, told us that the Saudi cars will get dual charge ports.
Yeah.
But then Eric Bach told us no, just one port for Saudi.
And I usually trust Eric. So
yeah, Eric probably knows better. But so it sounds like Europe and Middle East will get CCS2 front driver. US will get NACS J3400 rear driver.
Yep.
Another thing that's really interesting that I can't wait to learn more about, the boosting strategies between each car. So like the European cars on 400 volt chargers are not going to charge as fast as the US cars do. Mm-hmm. Eric Bach was saying that to us. He said because of the location of the charge port meant that, with the NACS car, they do something in the rear.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing, similar to EGMP boosting through the rear motor.
Yeah.
Just a guess. But they wouldn't say. We'll find out next year. And then with the front charge port, Eric was saying that you're basically limited to the same capacity as the Wonder Box.
Yeah.
So if you bring this to a supercharger in Europe, Jordan, it's not going to charge as fast as if you bring it to a version 3 supercharger in the US. Because Tesla chargers are also limited at voltage in Europe.
Right.
But there's plenty of other charging networks you can go to.
Yeah. If it does get peak charging, they were claiming, I also wanted to talk about this, charging 200 miles in 15 minutes, that math suggests a 10 to 55% based on EPA and everything in 15 minutes. Is that good enough?
No. No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think this is a new car. It needs to be smoking in every category. And while it sounds like the Curve is going to be totally beefed up from Air, and it will do 350 kilowatt peak charging is what they claim, and probably more because we've seen 351 on Air.
Right.
Just one time though.
Yeah.
Just one time. But it sounds like that new cell that they're putting in there is a little bit more open to charging. Like it might be easier to charge than the Air. But I don't think they're going with a huge power dense cell, and like Taycan has, which they could do, but they needed to have, mass manufacturing. They have warranty that they need to, rate these vehicles for a long time. And that's not to say Taycans degrade really fast. I've actually seen no data on that.
Yeah.
I've just put in a formal request to Porsche to be like, can we figure out if you're frying your packs by charging so fast? Because that's the one comment we get negatively. Right. And certainly like the gravimetric density of Taycan battery is less. So the gravity, not the gravimetric density, but the gravity sounds like they took the compromise, like Air, of going for as much range as possible, squeeze every bit of charging that they can with the limitation of that cell.
Yep.
It should have slightly better thermal management. They say a more powerful AC system, which is great, which you need. It's a bigger cabin. We also made the request for the dog mode to rip the fan speed, not just hold temperature, but to keep flow in the vehicle for Walter. They said no problem.
They heard the request and they said, got it.
Yep.
Peter said, okay.
Yep. Yeah. So it was really cool that Peter Rawlinson was so involved with our visit, actually.
Yeah.
And I've known Peter for years, and so it's great to see him, but also the entire executive team at Lucid. Like, you really do get to know these people with their cars. And, on one hand, sometimes I feel bad because I feel like we are very critical of their vehicles, but I also feel like it's fair, and a lot of the criticisms come from knowing the people, knowing what they're capable of, and really wanting them to produce the best car, because they believe they build the best cars.
Yeah.
They know there's room for improvement, right? They're always like, look, it's not perfect. It's not where they want it to be completely in every category. So I think they agree with us, but I think we also we're benchmarking their entire competition every single day. They have a competitive benchmarking fleet.
Yeah.
Of Chinese cars, Kia Carnival we saw back there. Yeah. They've got GM stuff, S-classes, EQS SUV. They've got it all.
Yeah.
But I also think like they do at least seem to appreciate when we are critical, because they're like, oh yeah, okay, we can adjust this and make it better for the customer.
Yeah.
Which I almost don't like reviewing cars when the companies don't watch our videos.
Right.
Like with BMW, like I made so many videos on this DCD rating thing, and I just went to a big BMW event, which I can talk about early next year.
Yeah.
For Neue Klasse stuff. And I was like, bro, did you see this thing? And he's like, head of battery. He's like, oh no, I never even heard of your channel. And I'm like, okay, this is like, why am I making these videos? Because obviously the end user probably doesn't care in most cases, but we want to help them make better cars.
Yeah. And it's twofold. Our job is to help the customer understand the product better, and also how it works with the landscape of all the other products. And sometimes I feel like companies aren't doing that. They don't know what the competition is doing, which is terrifying. But also we are hoping to give feedback to the company and hoping the company sees that. And we've known Rivian and Lucid and even Tesla to actually see the content and also make adjustments and make improvements. And that's the whole idea. Like, everyone wins in that case.
Yeah, and Ford.
Yeah.
I mean, the list goes on, and Porsche.
Yep.
So anyway, I think it's kind of exciting when that happens,
right.
And that almost puts more like weight on our shoulders to make sure we're right, and we're trying to do what we can to make the cars better for the end user and for the people at the company.
Yeah.
So anyway, we had a lot of discussions about our Air with them, but we also discussed a lot about Gravity, the charging, all of these things. So that's the charge port situation on Gravity. What else was interesting? The motors, silicon carbide, dual permanent magnet, very similar, basically powertrain technology to Pure and Sapphire, making its way into this vehicle. We'll get into how it drives in a little bit, but
speaking of Air, I mean, we should talk about the suspension. Mm-hmm. Just two types, but all Air standard, which is cool.
No steel suspension on this.
Yeah. And so that's one notable difference. The Air suspension and also the rear wheel steering option are big differences from Air, I think.
Yeah, so the standard setup on the Gravity is a single chamber Air suspension that is set to the equivalent spring rate. Mm-hmm. If you're, I assume, in normal ride height, because it's a progressive rate based off of suspension height, but it's set to the smooth setting.
Right.
In the dynamic handling package car. So it's set up to be soft, which I think is the correct setting.
Yeah.
I think for a Gravity without the handling pack, they're just looking to cruise in that thing.
Yep.
And so I think they chose that. Then on top of that, they have height adjustment. There was like 5 height adjustments, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Very low, low, standard, high, very high. I just glanced at it. It's in the video, I know.
Yeah.
We haven't edited it yet. And they also have an adaptive damper, so they can then further change the ride and handling characteristics, both for primary and secondary ride, through the damper control.
Yep.
The thing that seems like a steal of a deal in terms of the configurator, which we'll get into, is the dynamic handling package. How much is that, Jordan?
It's like $2,900 or something like that.
So $2,900 gets you tri-chamber air suspension, which not only enhances the comfort of the Gravity, but makes it way sportier.
Yep.
I mean, because now what you're able to do is actually separate out the suspension height from the ride quality.
Yeah.
So you can lower it, but then still let the suspension work. And you can play around with spring rates, which is really cool. And you still have your adaptive damper.
Yep. So
a tri-chamber is nothing new. Porsche's been doing it. I owned a Panamera with a tri-chamber air suspension. And so I'm familiar with the rough concept. But it's all down to tuning more so than the actual technology. And the rear steering comes in that package, which it's like 2.8, 2.9 degrees.
Yeah, almost 3 degrees, and they're still fully dialing that in. But that really helps with what's 100 and something, longish wheelbase. And that helps the turning radius narrow to 38 feet, which is, for reference, the EQS has 10 degrees of rear steer and does a 36-foot turning circle. So this is like only 2 feet different. And it helped. I mean, we really tested it, and it's a fast reaction on the rear steer.
Yeah, so when I went to make a U-turn in the Gravity, I turned the wheel and boom, the wheels were turned. A bit like Cybertruck is quick too.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's cool. Because in EQS, what you do is you have to turn the wheel, and then you almost have to like wait an inch, and then you get more and more rear steer, and it just comes in later.
And you feel like you're drifting because it is so delayed. You're like, oh, what's really happening back there? I don't know.
Yeah, because you've set your steering request, and then the steering changes.
Yeah.
So your brain, if you've been sideways in a car, goes, wow, I'm getting yaw at 3 miles an hour in a parking lot. And I think it's cool. Like, I like it.
Yeah.
But I also know how to drive around that limitation. This feels way more natural.
Right.
And what's interesting, Jordan, is they don't have a steering rack between the two wheels, which means they're independently controlled steering.
Yeah, it's like 2 mini steering racks. And that's to aid in not compromising the rear packaging for rear passengers.
They really focus on packaging. That is like the main driver here for this thing. And, every company's got to pick what they care about.
Yeah.
And you can't care about everything, even though they say compromise nothing.
Yeah.
Because the software wasn't even done in this thing. We'll get into that. That's the main scary point here. Timon's laughing. Timon hasn't heard about this yet. But one thing we can say is the packaging's amazing, and the rear steer with the double actuator is cool. I guess 911 works that way, so it's not totally unique in the industry, but it is cool, I think.
And the third thing that package gives you is titanium calipers. Titanium painted calipers.
Yes.
Not titanium. So, that's how you can tell if a Lucid Gravity customer is a true enthusiast, is you'll see the titanium painted calipers.
Right. And there's also 3 different wheel sizes.
4 different wheel sizes, 3 different packages.
3 different wheel options with 4 different sizes. And this is what's interesting. And I actually thought it was a chassis reason why they would go with a smaller front wheel diameter. So like we're pretty used to seeing narrower front wheel and tire package than the rear. So a staggered setup.
Right.
But what they do that, right? I don't think it was a square stance on this.
I don't think so.
We really were out of time, but we should have checked that. And we only experienced the cars with the top wheel package, the performance, the new Pirelli PZ5 situation.
Yeah.
But what's unique here is they have a larger diameter rear wheel.
Yep.
So it's a 22-inch front wheel and a 23-inch rear wheel.
Yep.
This isn't unique in the industry. We've seen sports cars do this, like BMW's notorious for doing this on M cars.
Alfa Romeo 4C.
Alpha, yeah. And so a lot of it is down to actually Cybercab.
Right.
For the handling of it. So I've heard some varying reasons as to why this is important. And a lot of it comes down to like turn-in response and some other stuff as well. You have an overall tire sidewall height that you're trying to maintain for load characteristics. Like there could be other reasons. But talking to the chassis engineer, he was like, it's mostly style driven.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It doesn't look awkward from the outside at all.
No,
it looks great.
That's why I feel like we never noticed this for the longest time.
Yeah.
When it was unveiled, I had no idea there was two different wheel sizes.
So it's a 20-inch, 21-inch base.
Yep.
A 21-inch, 22-inch mid-spec wheel and tire, which probably is the sweet spot to balance looks, range, if you're going to go with one set.
Yeah.
And then a 22, 23-inch, which is like a more open wheel, shows off that brake caliper a bit more, comes on the performance tires. And if you do those, you definitely want a set of winters if you live in the north.
Right.
Separately.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's most of the things. I feel like we should look at the configurator to see how it's all built out.
Yeah, and then we'll talk about how it drives. So let's build one out. Let's go through everything. But actually, can we just talk about software really quick?
Right.
The one concern before we even get into driving it, so we sat there. They had two Gravities there. They had one inside the showroom. They had one outside, the one that we drove. Both of them were running like a very early build of software.
Yep.
And apparently they have bucks that are running more feature-filled software, but are not totally stable yet.
Like certain features, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. And they have all this mindfulness, like yoga modes. And I was like, I don't give a shit about any of this. Like, get this lady off the screen. I was like, tell me about the battery pack. Don't tell me about this yoga thing. I'm like, are people going to use this thing? Jordan, first of all, what the heck was it called? Mindfulness or something?
Yeah. If Timon wants to pull up the screen, I'm sharing. There's the user experience. What do they call this? Focus? I don't know. I didn't actually say.
Enjoy a moment of zen.
Yeah. So it's just a moment of zen, I guess. There are a bunch of different options where you can transport yourself to one of these places.
Well, you're going to need this. If the software launches and it's not dialed and you get frustrated, which I get frustrated when stuff doesn't work, I'm going to need to put this on. I feel like we made
that joke because they said you might want to find a place and relax. And it's like, we're going to need this a lot. If
they don't change the turn signal, we need this mode.
Oh my gosh.
The turn signal's so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a few rough things in the buck we were driving, but it's just, and sure, they can fix all of this, but they're tight on time. That's my concern.
So what I thought was really interesting, if we could have one takeaway, and I want to talk more about how it drives, but the driving of the Gravity, which is what we went there to do. We went there to go drive it.
Yep.
Is totally sorted, totally dialed, 100% complete, best driving electric SUV, best driving SUV on the planet. I've just come out of driving both two different versions of the newest generation Cayenne. 100 times better here. 100 times better.
Yeah.
It's so good. And that's the real thing that Lucid gets right, is this thing drives great. And I want to talk a lot more about that. The problem is most people, at least that are our viewers, that are EV focused and not car nerd focused, they're EV tech focused. There was no driver assistance on the car we drove.
Yes.
There was no software that was functional. The screen, I couldn't use any of the touch controls on the steering wheel.
And it's a concern because I think a lot of my issues with the Air, I don't feel like I have a bunch of huge issues. It's just I nitpick it a lot in the software and ADAS areas. And that's what I was hoping Gravity would solve, still hoping, but our visit there didn't adjust it kind of made me afraid because...
Yeah, it's are they going to ship these things and they're not going to be done from software perspective? Because that gets annoying.
Yeah.
That's a Cybertruck move. And we really criticized Tesla over that.
All the headlines when Cybertruck came out was, it came out and didn't have all these features. And so, but what's worse, not having a feature or having a feature that's half-baked and needs a lot of work? But they still shipped it with a feature. Or
even worse than all of that is what Porsche and Audi did with PPE, which is to hold the car for 2 years and then ship it, and it still doesn't work.
Okay, well, that's the worst. Yeah. Hopefully we don't have that situation here. But Kyle, we did a software. We got lucky with the unveiling at LA Auto Show where we got to sit down and do a quick software deep dive with was it Dave?
Dave, yeah.
And this didn't really feel much better. I mean, there definitely were things added, but still wasn't ready.
It's clearly Lucid is filled with car enthusiasts that love to drive,
which is cool,
and so it drives great. And that's the driving is totally dialed in, and it drives better than Air.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, it's really impressive.
But I'm just wondering, I have no doubt they have talented software engineers, talented UI UX experts.
They just seem to be like, oh, we'll fix it in post.
Do they have enough? Like, they've had a year, which you should totally have a year to, like, within a year, you should have this completely done, like the software side of things. And it's one thing if it's like a delicate balance of like software and the hardware driving dynamics. So like ADAS, I kind of understand that taking longer because you kind of need the vehicle to be ready. But like just how the software works, I mean, we couldn't test the sound system, which I was really excited to try because this will have Dolby Atmos.
Could we have tested it?
I don't know.
I never tried it. We wanted to, but we literally had no time.
Yeah.
To even turn on the audio. We had to film.
Yeah.
It's possible it worked.
It probably did work, but I thought they said the Dolby Atmos wasn't ready, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, they have Tidal built in, right?
Yeah, but it's a subscription. It's a terrible app. So,
well, I want to talk all of this. We have to dig into, but I think our main the point of us having us there, from Lucid's perspective, I think they never said this, but it's to instill confidence to have people order a car that they know is going to drive really well.
Yeah.
And if you like a car that has a high quality driving experience, there is no, and I just came off of Motor Trend SUV of the year. So I just drove 50 different SUVs.
You just drove 50 subpar SUVs because now you've driven the King.
This would have won in my impression. I don't know for sure, but I think in that type of test where, like Motor Trend's SUV of the year is really focused on driving dynamics. The software doesn't come into play so much. The, like phone integration, the charging performance was of no use in that test really whatsoever.
Yeah.
This drives better than any SUV I've been in. And I just took, like I said, all the new ones that came out this year, I drove all of them extensively on and off-road. The Air wins a lot of awards, by the way. It just won Car and Driver 10 Best, or got on the list. It really wins a bunch. And Lucid's very quick to say, hey, our car always wins. You should buy our car because it's always winning awards.
Yeah.
But after being a part of and knowing people that give awards, a lot of them are based off of the quick test drive experience.
Yeah.
You have 1 hour in this car, or you have 30 minutes in this car. Go drive it. And that's where Lucids totally excel. And that's why I think they win so much, is because they drive perfectly.
Yeah.
They really do. But when we have one for 3 months and we live with it and the phone key starts annoying us and the charging performance is inconsistent and the blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then it's like, that's the stuff that matters. That's what you really get into a long-term ownership. And so I think a lot of the awards that the car wins, I'm not saying it doesn't deserve them because clearly we're big Lucid Air fans. It's so good at the initial impression that it's tough. First of all, it's impossible as an auto journalist to evaluate every car deeply, but it's tough to understand how the cars will perform in day-to-day living. And that's where I think Lucid sometimes doesn't win unnecessarily, but it wins and it doesn't paint the full picture.
Yeah, and that's where the long-term review capability, like I'm thrilled to Lucid that we could test that Air for so long because I really felt like we could share ownership experience, especially given that we drove over a year's worth of miles in 3 months.
Yes, a year's worth of average driving
miles. And really test out the phone, the app. I car camped in it, which that's edge. Like of the 9,000 people this year, 2 probably did that.
No, not even. Not even.
But that's
where I worry about Gravity.
Yeah.
I feel like for what they were intending to have us experience, and all of the other journalists that went there, which is a early drive of an engineering buck on the driving dynamics of the vehicle. It's incredible, really incredible. But the software they started production by end of year, right? It's currently December. What were we there? December 2nd we were there?
They were saying deliveries by end of year, which,
no, they didn't specifically say that. They were cagey about that.
Okay, they originally said that, but they may have changed that.
Yeah, it was maybe 1 or 2, but definitely early next year.
It might be like a Hummer situation where there was like one delivery.
It's like, Peter, here's your car. I don't know who's getting the first one, but I know everyone there is excited about it.
Eric wants the first one. So.
Yeah. We need to get Eric on the podcast. That dude's a legend.
ASAP. Yep, definitely.
Eric Bach, so cool.
Yeah.
So smart.
Brilliant.
I mean, the people at Lucid, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and that's why I firmly believe in the company and what they can do. And the things I'm a stickler about are because I just want it to be so good. I do want the competition against Tesla. Like Tesla wins in so many cases where I have issues with the Lucid.
You know what blew me away today, speaking of that, is just FSD.
Yeah.
That's like, you could sell me the biggest piece of crap car, and FSD is kind of at the point where I'm like, maybe I'll just take that because it drives itself.
Right.
And it doesn't, I'm not here to say it completely drives itself, and I've been an FSD hater.
Yeah.
Dude, whatever, like from picking up your this experience with the newest thing, I'm like, wow, that's amazing, right? And our Air struggled to make a left corner on a highway.
Right.
And I'm like, these are the things that really matter to us.
Yeah, and looking at the Gravity website and configurator and just seeing like all the things they're touting, including the ADAS section.
Let's pull up the configurator.
All right, design yours.
I've got a stain on my sweatshirt right here.
Yep.
I just looked over at this TV. Timing's running the podcast, by the way. We're slowly dialing in the podcast studio.
Yeah.
It's still early days, but
so trim, only one option, $94,900 for the Gravity Grand Touring.
And so the under $80,000 one could come in the future.
Yes. And they said, from what I've seen, it should be designable by next year, 2025. But here, color, you have black is free, or you can pick 5 colors. All of them are $1,000. There's no tiered pricing of colors.
It's very reasonable.
Yeah. Lunar Titanium Metallic is late availability for some reason.
I didn't see that before.
Yeah. But Aurora Green Metallic is the correct
color.
option.
That's the color. That is nice.
White, I would like to see white. I'm curious, but a little slow to render. But okay. Aurora
Could
Green,
be our internet connection.
Yeah. Aurora Green Metallic. And then different from Air, you have the stealth appearance as default. So they consider the Air customer as probably the one who wants.
So we asked Derek Jenkins about this, and we were like, "Bro, why is the Lucid stealth appearance? What? It's not even $1,000. It's like thousands of dollars."
Yeah.
As the upcharge.
Yeah.
And then the Gravity, that's now the standard, and you got to pay for the gloss or the what is it called?
Platinum appearance. Yeah.
I'm like, what's better? Because I'm not a design guy. That makes no sense to me.
And I can see it. I mean, SUVs are bigger. Black things make them look smaller. So if you have stealth as default, it just looks a bit more sleek. And then if you have I think the Air customer is also maybe a bit, I don't want to say older, more estately. So they might just have, they would probably opt for the platinum appearance more often. Either way.
$1,000, whatever.
$1,000, yeah.
The one we drove had the platinum.
Yeah. Wheels.
Maybe the stealth looks crappy. Maybe it's like a cheap plastic material.
Maybe.
That would be bad. Like, like base ID4 plastic?
Yeah.
Doesn't look good.
No. So yeah.
I don't know. We haven't seen it.
But they unveiled it with stealth and platinum. They had both options on the unveiling. They also had 2 wheels on the unveiling.
Well, let's talk about that base wheel package really quick.
Yep.
It's the Hankook Ion Evo AS tire, I believe.
Yep.
AS, and then it says something after that. What does it say?
Evo AS
SUV.
SUV, right.
That tire is, from our testing and impression from Tesla, and from their testing and impression from the chassis guys, the best new tire on the market.
Yep.
When you factor in range and handling.
Yep.
And so they were even saying, multiple people said this to us too. They're like, we can make Lucid Air have more range with just a tire change and more grip.
Yeah.
Because we always talk about how hilariously ungrippy that tire is. They're like, tire technology changes so much every year. We already know this, of course.
Yeah.
But they're like, we could probably make Lucid Air have another few miles of range and better grip. The question is like, do we have the resources to go through a OE development cycle, and would it sell more cars? And the answer is probably not. But for Gravity, they're using all the latest and greatest tire tech. And that Hankook Ion Evo, everyone was so impressed with the spiderweb of capability of that tire.
Yeah. And that's what's interesting. You could take one of your older EVs that has some degradation and undo some of the degradation by having a modern tire, because the tire that it came on, whatever, was probably older and worse range.
It's a great point, Jordan. Really good point, because EVs don't gain range.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they unlock buffers and stuff, but in general, your car's losing range every day. Whether it's noticeable or not is a different story.
Yeah.
But a great point that you can get it back to the original range with updated tire technology.
Yep. So that's the base wheel, 20-inch front, 21 rear. Then you move up 21 front, 22 rear.
They don't have an OE winter option at the moment, which they really need.
They do, yeah, especially Colorado customers.
Yeah.
So this option is $1,750. This is one of the wheels they unveiled at the unveiling with the more off-roady looking one.
Worth it.
Yep.
That's the one to go for.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. This is the one that we were testing.
This is the performance.
Big old
boy.
23 and 22.
It almost is too open. Like, it needs bigger discs.
It's almost too open, and the rubber just looks too thin to me. Like, this just looks a bit better, in my opinion.
The handling characteristics and grip level was hilarious.
Unreal. Yeah.
Absolutely stupid. I wonder if there's a way I could pull up the clip. But either way, it'll be in our main video.
Yeah.
We didn't know at the time, but we were pulling off the highway off-ramp coming back from Chick-fil-A in our Lucid Air.
Yep,
and
one does.
We were waiting for our slot to get into the Gravity. And we pull up behind a Gravity. We're like, oh, this is so cool. Let's film it. And then they get on this highway on-ramp, and we follow them because we're bored. A Cloverleaf.
Yeah.
And I am at the absolute limit of traction in our Lucid Air. I mean, I'm wide open throttle, leaning on the ESP systems.
Over 800 horsepower Lucid Air. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not giving us that much because it's just, we're on there. And the Gravity is just walking away from us in terms of grip and handling like we're standing still. Now, obviously, we had the aero wheels. They had the performance.
Yeah.
But tires make a massive difference. And then just watching that Gravity on throttle rotate, just lean on that rear axle a little bit and shoot away onto the highway was amazing. And then that was like we kind of were being a little bit pessimistic about Gravity all morning.
Yeah.
And when we saw, it was Jason Camisa driving, but when we saw Camisa rip around that off ramp or the Cloverleaf, we were both like, oh shit, this thing's crazy.
Yep. That's how we knew.
Yep. Then we're like, oh, this is gonna be a good day.
Yep. Interior wise, you have black as default, or you can upgrade to a nicer black, I guess. The one we were testing was this mid trim, Yosemite Perlux Premium.
That's my favorite interior.
It is great. Go for the white interior, folks.
They say super easy to clean.
Yep.
Probably a similar material to like Tesla white seats, but Tesla white seats feel like they've gone down in quality recently.
Mm-hmm.
Like Timon, you have the white seats in your car, and I have them in my Model 3.
Yep.
And so we have the same generation. Jordan has the new material in his car, and it feels worse.
Yep. Timon gives me crap for it every time.
Yeah, I mean, I've only sat in the new Model 3 3 or 4 times, and you can tell they're going to be a lot harder to clean. I just wiped mine down the other day because I wear jeans everywhere, so it shows up really quickly. And just 2 wipe downs, and they were brand new.
Yeah,
and they had to change to allow for the perforation for the ventilated seats and stuff. But that, it's harder to clean. Mine doesn't feel quite as nice.
This feels like it has the same durability as our old Model 3 seats, but it's a bit softer. Mm-hmm. But it's not as utilitarian feeling as like Rivian's thing.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit classier than the Rivian interior, which I think fits the vibe of the car, but still feels really stain resistant. And I think this is the interior to go for. And then you can go for the full leather, which we did not get a chance to sample.
Yeah. So for $2,900, you can get one of the Perlux, either white or black, or Tahoe leather, which is a baseball glove, basically. Or Ojai leather, which is, it kind of renders as green. We'll see if it actually renders.
Yeah, they were saying it's more like taupe.
Yeah, it's more taupe, and I think that'll look actually really nice. Like,
there's just something about an SUV in real leather that doesn't make sense to me anymore.
Yeah,
like you get the smell. Like our Air had real leather and it smells and whatever. But I just like these new materials. Like my Rivian with 60,000 miles on it, and I sit on that side bolster all the time getting in and out. I try not to, but it happens. Looks brand new, not a single crease. My mom's Macan, when we took delivery of it, had a crease in the seat with 12 miles on the odometer.
Dang.
So I just love these new materials because they're so strong.
So did your dad's Model 3 Performance.
Yeah.
Crease right, and then brand new seats, the performance seats.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That just ruins my theory. Don't bring it up. No, good point, Timon. Not every car is perfect. That was a manufacturing defect, and they replaced the seat, though.
Yep.
Back up to the interiors really quick, Jordan. We should commend, if you click the eye on the interior page, the like info, Lucid did an incredible job listing features on the configurator so that you totally know what material is going where. We actually got a few comments from people. It was like, look at this interior and tell us what's where. I'm like, it says right on the configurator.
Yeah.
Like, just go dig. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool. And so you can read, like, you know, what's leather, what's Alcantara, down to like dashboard upper section, pillar trim, door panel, middle section, front. Like, they're very, very detailed, and I love that.
But I still think the Perlux is the way to go.
I do too. The Ojai is finally rendering a little bit, and I can't wait to see that in person with the oak dash. But the Perlux just does it. That seems right to me.
And what's really cool is the center console cover is tempered glass.
Yes. So Lucid actually aimed for the cabin to feel like a mid-century modern vibe. And I think they've done quite well with that.
And in the photos, and maybe even in person, the steering wheel looks like it's upside down.
Yep.
And I really hated it. And I even went in saying, like, y'all messed up the steering wheel. They're like, just wait till you drive it.
Yeah.
It feels like the Cybertruck wheel.
Yeah.
Like, it does. It's not this big, squishy, leathery, disgusting wheel that's like in the Lucid Air, which I don't like that steering wheel.
Yeah.
So you're saying that this wheel's also terrible?
No, this wheel's great because it's thin. You get a sense of what's coming from the road, you know, at least an easier sense of what's coming up through it. And you never have to leave 9 and 3. It's got such a quick ratio, especially with the rear steering, that it does have a bit of that steer-by-wire vibe. Now, you can go, it's like just over 2 turns lock to lock. So if you're dead center and turn all the way left, the wheel does a 360 and then like a little bit more until you hit end of, lock. But yeah, lock to lock's got to be like 2.2 turns or something like that. But it really, in 99% of any driving situation, you never have to leave 9 and 3 because it can bring in that rear steer and help pivot the car. Or if you have ESP off, you can just juice it and slide it.
Right. So you mentioned how detailed the configurator is, which made me think to go back to the wheel section, Kyle. Here, boom. Now we can see the exact tire sizes.
And they even say what tire.
Yeah. So let's just start in the base model one, 265, 285. That seems to be the size on, let's see, both the width on that and the middle one. Yeah, 265 and 285 are the cross sections.
What was on the ones we drove?
That was 265, 285.
Wow.
So all of them are the same cross section front and rear, not quite square, but not a huge disparity. So yeah, there they are. So yeah, configurator really just shows you everything. It's awesome. So sticking with that.
And they also rate the range for each wheel package.
Yeah. Did they say that in here? Doesn't say in here.
Range, battery power, driving habits. So, basically when they say the range of the car, obviously there's no
range of your design available soon.
Okay.
So we should see that come to fruition.
They did tell us they individually rated each wheel and tire. So you only get the 450 miles on that Hankook 2021 inch.
Yep.
If you get the big ones, probably 390 to 410.
Yep.
That's my guess. I don't know.
Yep. And then I want to point out here, with the seating, this is touted as a 7-seat, but that's an option. Its default is a 5-seat configuration.
And it's almost $3,000 for that rear seat.
Yeah.
Seems expensive.
Seems like a lot. Of course, they do add USB-C ports in the rear with the 7-seat.
Worth it.
Yeah. So
never mind.
I don't see why you wouldn't have the 7-seat, just especially for resale value. I just feel like there's people who would want that, and you're okay sacrificing the small amount of storage space they take.
But it's just the underfloor storage.
It's just the underfloor, yeah.
So there's really effectively no impact to storage space.
Yeah.
If you ignore the underfloor, which is super deep.
Yeah. So
that goes right to the bottom.
It's something, but this already has so much space, like I don't know. I don't know how many people would order
I just think because of their efficiency, they were able to put so much fewer batteries in this thing.
Yeah.
That that underfloor storage in any other electric SUV would be cram batteries in there.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, make it as spacious as possible.
Yep.
And I think that's the real selling point here. It's going to have the range and the efficiency and the storage.
Yep.
And it's really a great compromise. But every car is a compromise. Every decision is a compromise, but they want to compromise nothing.
Yeah. And we made fun of them to their face about the compromise nothing thing. And they're like, well, yeah. And there's like, they're trying to make the right compromises. That would have been a better tagline. Right.
Striving to compromise nothing.
Yeah.
We all agreed maybe would have been better.
But we agreed compromise nothing was better than copy nothing, which is Jaguar. So, options.
Hey, I love that new Jag.
Right.
That Jag concept's awesome. Their marketing campaign, trash, but their
we should
car
talk
is
about
cool.
that too. But yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, the options. So ADAS is the first one they show, driver assistance system. Dream Drive, as Lucid terms their ADAS. So Air, you have Premium or Pro. Dream Drive Premium, Dream Drive Pro. And that also seems to be different than the Dream Drive Premium, Dream Drive Pro on Gravity. And then Gravity also has just Dream Drive. And it seems like all of them have maybe lane centering.
Well, we don't know what hands-on drive assist means.
Yeah.
Did we ask them?
No.
That was we really suck at our job.
We had so many things we were asking.
Yeah,
so,
we had a list. This was on the list.
Yeah. But yeah, we were hoping to test it, and of course the cars didn't have it. So
that's scary, dude.
Yeah.
Because software's so important, especially for a Model X owner or a Model Y owner that maybe came into some money or needs some space or whatever and is ready to really step up to their first big boy SUV. And a lot of EV owners are coming from Tesla and into something else because of whatever reason or another.
Yep.
But a lot of current EV people drive Tesla.
Yep.
And Tesla has the best driver assistance, not even close to anyone else. I was saying i7 is pretty close, by the way. And like i7's amazing on the highway. And I still think i7 or BMW's Active Driving Assist Plus, whatever it's called, has the best highway mannerisms of any system.
It's very good.
But FSD is on another level, dude.
Yeah.
Experiencing this new stuff is that I'm just so like, I'm also a little bit in shock. I'm kind of blown away by how good it's getting. And the fact that other cars can't do that is a real detraction.
And so many are limited to pre-mapped highways.
Which Lucid is.
Yeah.
We don't know if it is in the Gravity, but it is in the Air.
Yep.
So I assume in the Gravity.
Yeah, all we can assume right now is that, and we'll try to get more clarification
Lucid,
from them.
I hate to be this guy because I just sound... the problem is I hate Tesla fanboys that are always bragging about their system.
Yeah.
Lucid should just license FSD.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we should talk to Lucid and do a whole podcast on Lucid ADAS. There's enough to talk about there.
From what I heard is they had very slow progress on their ADAS because a lot of it was originally supplier controlled. Then recently, like within the last few months, they've brought it in-house.
Yep.
And so now we're getting rapid iterations.
Yeah.
And it sounds like in early next year, they called something Pineapple. Did you hear that?
No.
They call maybe I misheard something, but they were like Pineapple software update or something like that. I don't know. They threw some word that sounded like
weird,
pineapple,
yeah.
and I was like, "What? Why? We're not doing this. Is not safe word." but you know what I mean?
Right.
Something, whatever the next big software update is, going to have a massive driver assistance change to it.
Yeah.
Which it needs badly.
Yeah.
And so hopefully the Gravity will have that. But the problem is Gravity production starts now, effectively, within weeks.
Yeah.
And we could not experience a finished driver assistance product.
Yep.
Beyond that, back to the configurator, they have 3 levels of driver assistance, all of which are equally confusing.
Yep. So this has a lot of the basic stuff that you see in a lot of cars. We just don't know exactly what hands-on drive assist means. I would assume lane centering, but that hopefully, because that's all that is.
I mean,
in
it's
every system.
some assist, but when you look at what that includes, it includes extended stop and go.
Yep.
What does that mean?
Stop and go traffic, I guess.
Where you don't have to touch the wheel?
No, you do have to touch the wheel.
So how is it extended? It would just be stop and go. What is the extended doing?
Yeah, I don't know. Because a lot of systems do briefly stop and go, but if you have really heavy traffic and it stops too long, it kicks you out.
Oh, you got to hit resume.
Yeah.
So maybe this is like it'll wait for a minute.
That's my theory.
Okay. Then wait. Then you've got under there. You've got an active curve. No, that's in Dream Drive Premium.
Well, same thing. Active curve speed control.
Oh, that's the most annoying feature. Take that out.
Well, or let me control it.
Yeah. At least let me go fast around corners. Like Mercedes and BMW let you choose the level of slowdown.
Yeah.
Which Air did not.
This is completely dynamic, and then speed limit assist,
which doesn't let you set an offset in Air.
Yeah. So Dream Drive Premium adds 3D surround view monitoring, adaptive lane biasing.
So that's like scooching for a truck.
Yep. Speed-based suggested lane change.
Suggested lane change.
Yes, but doesn't do it for you. Adaptive drive beam,
which is matrix functionality. Yep. So that's worth it alone.
Blind spot display. I mean, the 3D
also
surround view, like all these are worth it. This seems like
$1,500, and you get all the like software to unlock the cameras, or maybe it comes with the hardware.
Maybe, but stepping up to $6,750 gives you future capable ADAS hardware. So I don't know what that hardware difference is.
May not get the sensors unless you drop the coin right now.
Yeah. And maybe this is just talking about LiDAR. Like, I don't really know. And so it's not just like they're leaving sensors off.
So you're a fan of this multi-sensor thing. We don't need to unpack that in this episode. I am totally sold on the camera thing unless you're in poor visibility, where, yeah, I can see having some extra sensors makes sense for redundancy.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on sensor fusion or anything.
Yeah,
I know it's difficult.
Yeah.
I think Airs all come with the full sensor suite. Is that true? Or no?
I don't know.
Oh, maybe I did see some of the parking lot that didn't have the sensors in them.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But the Dream Drive Pro on Gravity adds hands-free drive assist.
Okay, that's new.
Which it doesn't on the Air.
And will it do it at launch?
And maybe it'll come to the Air. There's a lot of things we still need to learn about this.
Yeah.
But we're just basing off the website right now.
And it's still early. Like, our drive's like a very pre-pro. Right. It's not even like the typical first drive journalist thing. Yeah. This was like a very early look.
But I want to be super optimistic because this is expensive, like FSD. And so if it can eventually do FSD-ish things, great. But like, hands-free is awesome.
Doesn't sound like it can.
Traffic light detection, that could be huge. Automatic lane change.
Wait, automated lane, the current Air does that.
Not automatically. You have to still.
But it's still auto lane changes.
But yeah. So okay. I don't know. We don't know if it's without input.
Okay.
So, and then enhanced automated park.
That's where it will park in and out.
Yeah.
I hate all of those systems. I just let me park the damn thing.
But this has automated park in and out.
Dream Drive
Drive Pro is enhanced automated park in and out.
So what does that mean?
I don't know. Because I can tell you on the Lucid Air, it's not great.
So we are completely puzzled by the driver assistance options.
Yeah. So should we move on to the next option?
Yeah, because we need to sort this out. We need to do it. We'll do a podcast on it as soon as we find out, because we owe it to the viewers to break this down.
Yeah.
Because I'm more confused, and every other system here is very clear about what you're getting, except for the driver assistance. And I really can't iterate this enough. I am scared for Lucid that they will not have the software and driver assistance ready at launch for Gravity.
Yeah.
And I'm even more scared that they think that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it is.
Yeah. Agreed.
Continue on.
Sound system. This is also something we wanted to test, just didn't have time. But they have Surreal Sound and Surreal Sound Pro. The Pro is $2,900.
29.
Yeah.
Did you say that?
Yeah.
It sounded like 21.
Oh, sorry. I said 2,900. It's we'll see. It's got Dolby Atmos capabilities, most likely through Tidal only. I do have a issue with them not having Apple Music, but I know Timon gives me crap all the time.
Yeah, you're the only person.
But Spotify doesn't support spatial audio, so what am I going to do? If I want to try the Dolby Atmos that they're so proud of. 22 speakers. I'd love to try Surreal Sound Pro on the Gravity. 10 speakers is Surreal Sound. So big number of speakers difference. A lot of those could be height channels, though. So I don't know necessarily what the difference is. And interestingly, when you have Surreal Sound Pro highlighted, it still only shows 10 speakers on the animation. Maybe they'll adjust that. I don't know.
Did they tell you that it was going to be more?
The configurator says 22 versus 10. But I don't know if there's a sub, because our issue, Kyle, with the Air is just not quite enough sub bass. They did improve with software the sound overall.
A big improvement, I think.
Yes, but still not the oomph that you get. You get into EQS or an i7.
The Burmester and the EQS rips.
Yeah, EQS.
The i7's okay, but
better.
iX, yeah.
Then you're like, oh, that's what a really great sound system sounds like.
Yeah.
So
iX.
I think it's good. Surreal Sound Pro is good. Could be better in the Air. I'm excited to try it in Gravity. Dynamic handling package, also $2,900. We unpacked this pretty well earlier, just with the various air suspension, single chamber versus tri-chamber. Everything else is pretty normal. Hill descent control, automatic brake hold.
I do like how they have a loose road surface ESC module.
Yeah.
That's what Macan needed.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Probably needed. And then technology package. So
all right, so a lot of tech people buy electric cars.
Yep.
This is already an almost $100,000 SUV base.
Yep.
Why not throw all the tech in there?
That's what. Yeah. So there's two ways to look at this. I mean, a lot of people expected this to launch at like 120 grand for the Grand Touring, and it launched at under 100. But then you're right, adding everything back in makes it back up to 120.
110 to 120 feels like the sweet spot for one.
Yeah.
130 is fully maxed out, right?
Yeah. And I think that's true. So as standard, you still get the 34-inch glass cockpit. It is phenomenal screen. It's OLED. It is all fully seamlessly connected, unlike the Air, which has segmentation. It's, funny enough, 1 inch larger than the Cadillac offerings.
It feels very GM, the screen. It feels
Same
like...
shape-ish, and
like
it's
whatever that's in the Lyric.
Yeah, 1 inch difference. But yeah, this is 6K resolution, so 6,000 pixels wide. GM, the Lyric and Optic and Vistic have 9,000 pixels. So
Even the Optic.
Theirs are a bit more pixel dense. So, but
I thought this looked unbelievably
this looked
crisp.
way better. This gets brighter than the GM ones, which is one of my issues with the GM screens, and just it's more beautiful.
Yeah, this was a great screen.
Yep. And then a 12.6-inch landscape center touchscreen. So it's different from the portrait-oriented screen that is on the Air that folds away. Gravity does not have that. They kind of realized the folding away thing is
Feels
done.
a bit small.
Yeah. Looking at it, though, it feels a little smaller because maybe you're used to the Cybertruck.
Yeah.
But it has all the other stuff, too.
I think I just prefer the single screen.
The single screen with like a really nice driver's display.
Yeah, I think that's what I prefer.
Yeah. But they think they have multitasking figured out.
Right, which would be doing something different on the top versus the main screen. And they showed us that. They're like, you can put map here, main screen here, but then our map didn't work in the test car.
Yeah. So that's all the software stuff.
And it is really important to note that we went into this just for the driving experience, not the tech experience, but that left me a little bit concerned.
Yeah.
If I haven't said that 50 times already.
Yep.
Have I said that time? Yeah.
Let me go back real quick.
Okay.
Wired and wireless CarPlay. No Android Auto to speak of in any Lucid.
Good. Screw those guys. Buy an iPhone.
Right. Here's the thing. USB-C 2 from the front seats.
I've never used Android Auto. Is it good?
It's fine. I've had more... Well, I've had glitchy Apple CarPlay as well.
Yeah, I hate CarPlay.
But I've had a lot of glitches with Android Auto. So... I don't know, but it's fine, and my Android brethren enjoy it.
I own an Android.
Right.
I bought the crappiest
use
one.
Apple Music and an Android. How does that work?
What? I don't use Android.
You just said you did.
I've used it before. Yeah.
Sorry to hear that. I'm actually a fan of Android. I'd like to make fun of them, but because I'm such an Apple guy. But I like my little Android phone.
Yeah.
It does some better things, like more customizations than my iPhone.
I want a Zenfone 10. I would love one.
Okay. Anyway, USB-C 100 watt, baby.
In the front though.
EQS SUV 100 watt every port.
And Ionic 9 100 watt delivered from the DC battery.
Dude, I forgot about the Ionic 9.
Yes.
That
has the future looking USB-C system. This feels, I don't know, 45 watts is fine, but like, what if I'm in the back on the little platform thing wanting to charge my MacBook and I can't because they don't deliver enough power, so I have to then run it up to the front USB-C
No, you
ports.
still can charge a MacBook at 45 watts.
Not if I'm editing something heavy.
I don't know. I edit a lot on my MacBook, and I have the real-time energy monitor, and it never pulls more than like 35 consistent while editing.
Sometimes. Well, especially
if I'm exporting, I get 70 watt load, but I've never seen more than 70 watt load on my laptop.
With Adobe stuff, it could burn a lot, but
either
way, I think they should have done 100 watt everywhere, but it's fine. 45 is great, better than EV9.
But then wait for the EV9 refresh.
Right. Bluetooth, we don't know what codec yet. Wireless charging pad.
Yeah, just one of them.
Yeah, just one wireless charger.
Base Model 3 has 2.
Yeah,
and it wasn't actively cooled as far as I could tell, like Porsche.
No, so maybe not great.
Yeah.
And then navigation. I can't wait to try the route planning. We'll see how it looks.
Yeah, none of that worked in the car we were in.
Upgrading to the technology package.
All right, so that's standard. Now we get into what the heck are you paying for $3,200?
$3,200. Heads-up display. That's new for Lucid. Augmented reality.
So they showed us the graphics of how it should look, and it looked really nice.
Yes.
It's really minimal. In the sense where they're not trying to flash a bunch of crap up at you just to do it, like Mercedes, and Volkswagen, actually, which can almost feel gimmicky. So they're like, we wanted it to be classy, we wanted it to be useful, but in theory, you really only need just a few things up there, and it can be incredibly useful.
Right.
So I really liked the displays. I wonder if we'll be able to overlay it in the main video, but they have this thing, Jordan, where it will outline the lanes like Macan.
Yep.
And then when you're turning, it puts the arrow, there's a singular arrow with like a loading bar.
Yeah.
As you're coming up to the intersection, and then it fills up, and then it puts a dot, a singular dot where you're supposed to go. So if you're turning left, it puts the dot to the left. As you come into center line, you can line that dot up with like a, I don't even know how to describe it, like a little gauge or a little, it almost looks like a target lock from a fighter jet.
Yeah.
But it's just a singular circle. And then it, I think, goes green or goes white or highlights. And then you're centered driving straight. And it's like, no crap, of course you're going to do that anyway. But it's so cool to get it lined up and then go straight.
I hope it's accurate. Because people might focus on lining up the dots and then realize they're like into the next lane.
So that's the big thing we asked them about. And this was Dave's focus. A lot of this is all developed in-house, by the way. They're working on a supplier to like help with software and maybe manufacturing, it sounded like, but a lot of it's developed in-house from the headlight team. So the headlight team is working on the head-up display team.
Yep.
And the accuracy is so important here.
Yep.
Because we've driven, even Macan's off a little bit, and that's probably the best head-up display I've used recently on the new PPE stuff. But like, so like when you get the lane lines, the followed lines, they're just off a bit in the distance. And even in their renderings that they showed us, it was off a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, it's going to be distracting if it's not perfect.
Yep.
And they knew.
Yep.
And they were like, we think we can get it perfect. And I'm like, but I need to know you can get it perfect.
And we'll be perfect at launch. I mean, that's what's the launch going to look like. We will definitely report on that. This also comes with dynamic ambient lighting. So you can create a cocoon of tranquility inspired by California's natural wonders.
You're saying I can order a $110,000 Gravity without ambient lighting?
Well, okay, this is dynamic ambient lighting. Wait till we get to the comfort and convenience package where they talk about ambient lighting. It's
what happens if you order tech but not convenience?
I don't know. And then power outlets are not standard. That's disappointing to me.
Yeah, totally. That's not worth $3,200.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have. I don't actually think this is worth it.
Yeah. Heads-up display, don't need it. Ambient lighting, don't need it.
It didn't work in the car we had. The head-up display was not active.
And outlets, I guess it depends.
So you only get outlets, lighting, and a head-up display.
Yep.
The head-up display is probably very expensive to them. Yeah, look, it doesn't line up with the road lines.
Yep. So, well, yeah, that's the technology package.
I would say get it if you can, but
yeah,
I'm always a fan of fully spec
comfort and convenient. So standard, you do get ambient lighting.
So
that's
okay.
good. So to make it dynamic, you have to pay the $3,200.
I don't need it dynamic.
Yeah. So you get glass canopy, a standard glass roof.
In the Grand Touring.
In the Grand Touring, yeah. We don't know lower trims yet. Micro lens array, auto on-off headlights they put as a feature. It's funny. Who doesn't have that now? But yeah, a lot of basic things. One
Wait,
key fob, two NFC cards.
The Air still doesn't have screen brightness, automatic screen brightness.
Right.
Does it say that here?
Will, I didn't see it anywhere.
That's crazy that a new car doesn't have automatic screen dimming.
That's rough.
Yeah, that's the little stuff with Air that we're like, okay, come on.
You have to pay $2,500 to get a heated steering wheel and heated second row seats, which is standard on the Model 3, by the way.
That's a ripoff.
And you have to pay to get the rear screen, which is standard on Model 3.
See, this feels like penny pinching.
Yes, very
just make the
so.
car's base price higher.
Yeah.
This just feels offensive.
And this also gives you soft closed doors, cabin filtration, active cabin filtration.
The soft closed doors felt similar to Air in the sense where there's not a good door thunk.
Yep. Heated wipers, rear console display, and this gives you the acoustic laminated glass. I don't know how NVH will be without this.
Yeah, the one we drove was very quiet,
yes.
but it had the laminated glass.
Yep. And then if you do want to tow, which they claim, 6,000 pounds, this gives you all the wiring and stuff to do that, to run.
Get that.
Yep. It's only
Bike
$750.
rack. Yeah.
After all the other options, that feels like pennies.
Yeah, that feels great. So you were actually saying earlier, I don't think you finished your point, but there's two ways to do packaging, which is one is like Tesla, which just include everything, choose your color. And the other is like Porsche, which is almost offensively annoying that you have to choose everything, but cool.
What color would you like your vents surround?
Right. So I like that.
Yes.
But we also argue that the Macan should have standard driver assistance and standard some other stuff. And for our market, I think Porsche kind of listened because we get a pretty loaded up base car now.
Yep.
And so, like, we get glass roof, rear wiper. I don't know, maybe not rear wiper, but we get glass roof, some other stuff in Macan that's nice.
Yep.
And I feel like some of these things, like Lucid, I don't think they have the, like, they shouldn't go full Porsche mode here.
Yeah.
And I think they went a little bit too crazy with the options.
Yeah. So, 115,000, that's below it before I added driver assistance. So, yeah. So you're looking at, about 120 plus tax-ish. And this is not maxed out. This is the middle trim wheels, the middle trim interior. So maxed out, it's 130. And like you said, getting the options you probably want is close to 115.
Yeah, 115.
So,
okay, so that's how we should really judge it, because that's how most people will probably spec theirs.
Which is it is frustrating, because a lot of people will say, all right, here's this car with, $95,000 car that has all these things. And people don't often spend time in the configurator figuring out. Like, I'm just saying, journalists will often review a car and mention the base price, but not really always mention what they're testing.
Yeah, we're pretty bad about mentioning price sometimes.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's just at the dealer, who knows what happens. But at least with these direct manufacturer sales things, it's good. So that's a benefit, is you don't have to go through a dealership to buy this car.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the service has been great with Lucid.
Yeah.
So that's the configurator. Should we talk about our driving experience?
Yeah. I mean, you touched on a lot of it, but
let's go through it, because there's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
How long are we into this time in?
An hour and a half.
Oh, perfect.
Nice.
We got another hour and a half to go.
Yeah, this is still way shorter than the I-90 Surge.
Yeah. So we get in the car for the first time. There's Andrew from PR in the back. You're over here. Chassis guy to my right. I can't remember his name, but he was awesome.
Yeah.
And I met him years ago at the start of production for Lucid Air. He's cool and rips, and is like, I believe was an E46 guy. I remember talking to him about BMWs at the launch event, and he's just hardcore, like, knows how to build a great driving car.
Yep.
And we get in the Gravity for the first time, and I sit in there, and I'm like, whoa, I can sit low-ish, everything's perfect. The wheel needs to come just a couple more inches out, but I'm not like, reaching for it like I do in the Air. And I'm instantly like, wow, this is so much better than the Air's ergonomics for me.
Yep.
The stalks are still too far away from the steering wheel, so like you really have to reach for them, and they have too much throw, which is so unpremium. So I don't know why they didn't fix that from the Air.
And they just don't feel super premium either.
No, it's very plasticky.
Yeah, and so that would have been nice to see a difference.
Yes.
And so for they're too far away, they go too far down, and then the noise the turn signal makes when you activate it makes you wish you had never done it.
Right. I just stopped using it because it was so annoying.
And that was probably not final.
Right. They said that will be updated.
Yeah.
But I hope they don't put the Lucid Air turn signal noise in there, because that's bad too.
That's worse.
Yeah.
Not worse. This was
equally
worse.
bad. I don't
Both
know.
Bad.
Both terrible. They just need a nice click. So apparently other journalists mentioned it too, because they're like, yeah, we heard about the signal. I'm like, how could you not? Like, how could that even make it in there? It's such a bad noise.
I don't know. The cameras were really malfunctioning. A lot of things were rough, but it's okay. You were focused on driving.
Yeah, so we went to drive. So there's smooth, swift, and sprint mode as your base driveline modes.
Yep.
In the future, for Air and Gravity, you will be able to split your preference on powertrain, suspension, I assume steering, and ESP.
Yep.
Which is great. And hopefully you'll be able to have a custom mode that you can save to a hotkey or to an easily accessible button. This one also has an additional drive mode, which is towing.
Yep.
And we drove in smooth most of the time, actually, because that's where most people will drive the car. And we drove the triple chamber one. We drove one with the dynamic handling pack, which is even slightly smoother than the standard car, because it just the wide range of what it can do is expanded. And the first thing we do is we just inch around the parking lot, and we try and feel for motor cogging at low speed, because Air did that. We listened to the motor noise, and it was an instant revelation as to how quiet the motors are compared to the Air.
Yeah.
So the front motor is now double isolated, which means it's isolated from the motor cradle through bushings, and then isolated to the vehicle subframe through another set of bushings.
Yes.
And you could not hear any motor whine at low speed.
because the original Air had maybe a bit too much motor noise according to some people.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, and then the second version, the revision that we've been testing, was very, very quiet.
But not dead quiet.
Yeah.
This was dead quiet.
That had some isolation added.
Yes, it was like single isolation mounts, but still some noise came in, so they like struck a medium balance.
And this was like amazing.
Yeah, this was like, okay, we're finally at Mercedes level of quiet.
And if you're really gunning for it, which we do hope they add a better launch mode, just getting more of it off the...
Yeah, it just didn't feel like it launched as hard as the Air GT.
But the Air GT
ripped.
launches like crazy and then keeps pulling. This one doesn't have that initial crazy launch, but keeps pulling.
Yeah, oh my God, the speed was wild. But even more impressive than that, like obviously we knew it was going to be fast, but the low speed characteristics were really nice in terms of like the one pedal driving. In our Air, like when it does one pedal driving, sometimes it's good and sometimes it grabs the brakes a little bit too hard. And then especially if you're like at a stoplight and you just want to inch up a little bit and you're just like tapping the throttle, when you put your foot on the throttle, the first like millimeter doesn't do anything, and you can tell like it might be building up motor torque a little bit but sitting on the friction brakes. Then it completely unlocks the friction brakes and you're like a little bit of jolt forwards, then it gets back on the friction brakes and jolt stop. This was dead smooth.
Yeah.
This might be the best single pedal drive tuning I've ever experienced. It was that good.
Wow.
So I really, and again, I only tried it like twice, so maybe it was just my impression of this being so good, but I was really thrilled with the low speed characteristics.
Yeah. Yeah, they're and it felt comfortable and smooth from my end. I was of course in the back seat, which helped me gauge dynamics, especially with the air suspension and stuff, because some SUVs we've tested have a bit of a hopping character. What would you call that?
Porpoising, yeah. e-tron, iX,
or even the Rivian sometimes.
Well, first generation R1S especially
was a bit rough in the back.
But you're getting all the way to the highway. I haven't even left the parking lot yet.
Sorry, go ahead.
Jordan's ready to tell you about. So we go around the parking lot, feel a little bit of that steering ratio. Love the steering wheel. Thought I was going to hate it. Love the wheel. It doesn't look upside down when you're sitting in the driver's seat. And you get a great clear view of the displays.
Yeah. They raised the display and also made the squircle. So that helped with the view. Yeah,
I really, really enjoyed that. And pulling out on the road, the first thing I really did to it was like sprint mode, which drops the suspension, and then launch. And when we put it in the launch mode, it didn't come up on the screen. And the chassis guy said it felt like it was in launch mode, but to me it didn't. It ramped up power. By the time we hit 35 miles an hour, it was boogieing. And it spun the front tires at 30. So like it's like grip, it's going more. Then at 30 I could feel that front driver's side tire just spin up a little bit. And I was like, wow, that was pretty cool. But also maybe work on traction control response a little bit in motor stuff. Could be really, tune that like a Plaid doesn't really do that.
Yeah.
Because they can control everything in the motor so quickly. And I know Lucid can do it with Sapphire from what I've seen. I haven't driven one, but from what I've seen.
Yeah.
And so the power was amazing. And it, like you mentioned, doesn't stop pulling. And this is the Grand Touring. Now, we don't know if there'll be a performance Sapphire version of Gravity.
They seem to like allude to it without alluding to it, if that makes sense.
They were like, it would make sense to have one.
Like I was like, oh, you're going to make an Emerald? They're like, no, it's a Sapphire. Like, oh, okay.
So like that could be a really spicy super SUV, but because it has all the bones for it.
Yeah.
It just needs big brakes.
Yeah.
And just the throttle was great. But then I put it in smooth mode. Like really the purpose of this vehicle is not to be a race car. It's not to be a track day blaster, although it has, like, they've taken it on track. You could take it on mountain roads. Like, it's certainly, like, think Cayenne GTS, even Cayenne Turbo. Like, you could do a track day in a Cayenne. It's really funny. It's kind of hilarious, but they're built to handle that kind of use case, and this feels like that too. But we kept it in smooth mode, got right on the highway, got to about 70, 75 miles an hour, and just started feeling the thing out. And that's where most Gravities are going to spend time, just doing the highway commute, the road trip. And that's where I really felt that it came into its own. It settled down. It soaked up the bumps. The road textures just went away. It wasn't completely removed from the driving experience. It's not like a i7 waft or a Rolls-Royce waft. There was still a sense of connection to the road, but it had a very sophisticated ride in the sense that I was impressed because air suspensions, like the Lucid Air, drives so well in part because it uses a steel spring. But I was really impressed with the air suspension ride sophistication and quality in the Gravity to almost match the Air in terms of, it's not a technical term, but I call it an honest driving experience. Like, okay, you can tell something's happening, but it's not bugging you. It's just in the background, and it just reassures you that, like, oh, okay, we're hitting some bumps. You know that they're there, but it's not annoying, and it's reassuring, and it feels great.
Yeah.
Then we went on took this sharp little exit and just cruised around, started feeling the turn, could feel the rear steer kick in. And there was like one little turn. He's like, put it in sprint mode, go rip it. Because I'm like, we don't have much time. So then I was like, let's try a little bit of boogieing. Foot down, and it explodes at speed. Man, does it just absolutely get on the power. The inverter whine's awesome. The motors are ripping. It sounds so healthy. The whole thing is just sitting on its rear tires. Get it into braking into a corner. It has a very good physically connected brake pedal, not a brake-by-wire clicky thing. I could just lean it right on ABS. I could feel it pulse a couple times, back off, hold it at threshold brakes. Keep in mind we're on the performance tire, so that we're really under braking right now. That all the weight's in the nose. Get it into a corner, just turns. Yeah. And I mean, I'm just feeling the thing out, but like even turn a bit too much because there was a dump truck coming right towards us. Yeah. But like just like unbelievable turning grip. Like it just feels like you could do anything and it will always turn.
Right.
And even with the rear steer helping to pivot the car, that was so impressive.
Impressively nimble, especially given the size. I mean, we've driven a lot of SUVs that are smaller and it's like, okay, this feels nimble, but like this thing, did you forget how big it was driving it? Because
it feels like a sports car.
You look back, you're in the driver's seat and you look back and you just see a cavern of seating.
It's the view out the back, by the way, is pretty small.
Yeah.
I should just mention that. The window's pretty small. I wish I had a digital rearview mirror, actually. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's dangerous. The blind spots didn't seem bad. The side view mirrors are really small too. So like rear and side visibility, I didn't actually check blind spots too much, but like the side view mirrors are small. The rear view mirror was small. I wish I could just see a little bit more naturally.
Yeah.
But we go to make that left turn, and we have ESP full on, by the way.
Yeah.
And I'm in sprint mode at this point. So it's a, turn left, cross traffic, wide open, throttle up to speed. And so I'm at it from a standstill, and it is limiting power pretty quickly. Yeah. And so I feel like I'm just leaning on the systems. As soon as I get straight on the wheel, then it's just like bzzz, ramps up the power. That's a bit annoying to me. Mm-hmm. I actually wish they would back off ESP a little bit there. Just let me, just be a little bit more aggressive. If I'm matted and turning, like don't let it get a huge yaw.
Yeah.
That'd be great. There's 3 levels of stability control. There's on, partial, and off. I feel like maybe partial, we didn't try it, but that might be the sweet spot.
Right.
It's geared very much towards safety, as it should be. But then just like air, you can turn all that off. And they're like, sometimes we leave a little bit of ESP on. If it's full off, like if you're absolutely completely wildly out of control, but there's no like rollover protection or really stuff like that. They're like, you can just full drift this thing. And
that's
like,
amazing.
That's so cool.
Because you showed up, the first thing you said was like, does it go sideways?
Right.
Like, wait, let us show us the software.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to know about your yoga mode. I couldn't get out. We're so into showing us this like relaxation mode that I've zero. I don't even know anyone who would use that. Like Mercedes has that, the mode things. I've never heard of a user using that.
And I forgot about the Genesis Sounds of Nature, but someone reminded me recently.
Yeah, Kia has it too.
They accidentally discovered it, and they were like, "Do you know it has?"
No one uses it.
They didn't mean to discover it. They were just like,
they really should just work on making software finalized before they bring the yoga in.
Yeah,
mindfulness.
Thinking about how much effort was spent working on the yoga stuff,
right? When it should have been driver assistance.
Yeah,
that's the feeling.
Yeah, I never got to try it.
It feels like if they were selling in China, maybe that would make sense, or maybe the Europeans are more interested in that.
I don't know,
but like I don't know. Anyway, so we what did we do at that point? So we made a U-turn. We sat in traffic, did the one pedal thing a little bit more, just cruised around. We were chalking. We actually paused the video. U-turned it, amazingly tight turning radius, considering just a few degrees of help. We get back on the highway, and that's where we are back up to like 75, 80, 85 miles an hour, really noticing the low NVH. Our car actually had a couple seals that weren't sealing.
Yeah, it wasn't quite perfect, but again, engineering buck.
But if you listen around that, which obviously I can imagine, Lucid's already built a car that doesn't have a lot of wind noise, so I can imagine they can build a car that seals up well. Really nice NVH. It didn't feel as quiet to me as like iX or EQS.
Yeah.
What was your impression? It might be.
Yeah, I agree. Not quite that crazy level, but very quiet.
It's always hard to judge noise unless you're doing same road surface, same speed, and vehicle to vehicle back to back.
Yeah.
So I think we'll have to wait for a big comparison. It's certainly more than quiet enough to be acceptable. Like it's a really high quality NVH sound. But then we hit a fairly large bump in the road, and you were impressed by that.
Yeah, they called it what, an event?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So you had an input event, yeah.
Yeah. So the sizable bump that they apparently do testing and benchmarking on this bump with all the competition, and yeah, it took it and it settled down very quickly.
Right, so it took a huge jolt input, controlled the body motions of the car within one compression cycle, and it was over. But it wasn't harsh.
No, yeah.
And that's one of the benefits of that tri-chamber as well. It's just you can really start working with that whole entire sort of changeable spring rate with adaptive damper and just settle the whole thing down. And this is like V1. All of these can be updated through OTA as well.
Right.
OTA updates can really transform the way the vehicle drives once you put in hardware that has adjustable settings.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like maybe not as impressed as you were over that bump, actually. Like it felt okay from the front, but the back seats where you really noticed that stuff. So that's probably where you were feeling it.
Maybe I was expecting it to be so much worse that's why it was like not so bad.
Right, because a lot of SUVs have like a lot of weight to them, and then especially on the on the rebound side, they almost like come up too much. So you like compress it, and then like whoa, we're up in the air and we're loose, and then it comes back down, and you get this. We call it the e-tron torque and some other stuff, but yeah, it was really really good tuning.
Yep.
Then we do a cloverleaf.
Yep.
And so full sprint mode. ESP still full on, by the way. So we're already moving. So the ESP calibration at low speed is like really geared for safety when it's fully on. When I was moving and going around the cloverleaf, the same one we talked about where we followed Kamisa around his. So first of all, it's my first time driving the car. I'm not totally sure of how much initial grip we have. So, I'm not here to bin a prototype car. And so I went into a corner pretty slowly. Timon and I have already had an experience binning a one-of-one Taycan Cross Turismo.
Yeah, but that wasn't your fault. That was Mother Nature.
Yeah, rock slide. Yeah. But still, the last thing we want to do is damage Lucid's,
Right. We had already evaded rocks earlier in the day in the air, so.
Yeah, right. We did. That's right. We did have an almost Taycan repeat in the air, and we bottomed the air out pretty hard over a bump.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was just like not in the mood to crash the car, but I was boogieing. So I was like, all right, let's get into the corner. And I obviously here to test the car. I'm not going to hold back.
And my bag was flying and the drone was flying. Not in the way you usually fly a drone.
Right. But get it into a corner. The steering wheel position's great. The ratio feels good. It's a little bit lower down in sprint mode. Feels awesome. And I can just lean it right up to where the front tire reaches maximum grip, and so I could just feel the front end wash out a little bit, pull up on the throttle, get some weight up there, just tuck it back in, everything you want to feel, just playing with it right at the limit. And we're on a Pirelli tire, which it's a new type of Pirelli P0 Elect tire, which I felt had much better breakaway characteristics than the recent Pirelli I was on in a BMW M5, I believe. I don't know what I was driving on P0s, but I was driving something where I was like really not into the P0s. And on this one, I was like, wow, just very progressive breakaway, felt awesome getting it in. And then, as we start to near corner exits, just applying more and more throttle, leaning into it, it really ripped on that rear motor. Right. It was just like, boom, let's give you everything. And I have the reaction in the video was just like, holy shit, this thing is awesome. Because I'm coming out basically straight on the wheel, all the weight's loaded up on that outside rear, and it's just like full rally car coming out of there, just and just nose is standing up in the air. Felt so good that I was like, that is the magic of Lucid, is the faster you drive them, the better they get. And it's no soccer mom or Lucid Gravity is ever going to do that. But it's really nice to know how dynamic that thing can totally be. And that's one corner. My whole review of that car is like one corner. I really can't wait to drive it some more, especially on a closed course. But and it's funny that we're saying that because this is an SUV that has so much space, and I'm like, let me get it on the track.
That's the magic of this. This feels like kind of the ultimate significant other daily. Like, let's say you have a 911 with your cool little independent rear steer.
Thank you. I love the idea, by the way.
You also have this.
That's a freaking awesome two-car solution.
All the cars in my garage have this really cool, unique rear steering system. That's how you start every conversation. But yeah, when you love your 911, but when you have to drive the family hauler, a lot of people are like, oh, darn, I have to go drive the Expedition.
Or the Honda Odyssey Touring.
Right. That was mine growing up. But it's like...
They're awesome, by the way. I'm an Odyssey fan.
What if you had a Gravity as your other car? You wouldn't be like bummed. You'd be like, all right.
Yeah.
Kids, we're going to get there early.
Oh, yeah. Kids, buckle up tight. And the thing is, it just does exactly what you want it. And that's ESP full on.
Yep.
And was just perfect.
Yep.
So, man, if that's V1, that's like not even series software on the chassis stuff.
Yeah.
Then wow, the driving performance is really next level. And I think that's the hard thing with this car, Jordan, is it drives so well. Clearly. And they're done. They're basically like, yeah, we've signed this off for production. It drives so well, but the software is so not ready.
Yeah, and at least...
And I'm like, I don't know what to think because I'm a driving enthusiast. So like that speaks to me on this 100%.
Yeah.
But I'm also totally dying for Tesla FSD. Well, and all of and the great screen interactions that I get in my Cybertruck and others, like that's my benchmark. That's what I'm used to.
Yeah.
So give me both.
And they have so much, I mean, proven with the hardware of Air 2, Air Gen 2, whatever. Just the screen reaction's so good. Like,
you mean the one we had, the refresh?
Yeah, the refresh we've been driving. That new hardware is so capable. So it's like they have everything. It's just getting it dialed in. And
but
maybe
why is it not dialed in yet?
Maybe in theory, I guess to give them the potential benefit of the doubt, because there's probably someone at Lucid already thrown their phone across the stage because they're watching this, but maybe all the pieces are together and they just hadn't yet compiled a final software on these bucks. That's possible, and that's my hope, because otherwise it's not looking good. Because they might have, like they said, like they're like, oh, the Zen, yoga stuff is ready on one car or one system they're testing. Someone else is probably testing other stuff. Like, hopefully it's all good and they're individual, because they do segmented compartmentalization of developing software like a lot of companies do. So maybe it just wasn't all done. We didn't have the final everything that, like, maybe every system's like 95% at that time, but I don't know. That's the hope.
It's scary.
It's scary. It is
because
scary.
we're here basically. Lucid invited media, not just us, maybe 10, 15 people. I don't know. I think we're the only ones who filmed it, but who cares? They invited a small select group of media, probably for the intention of instilling confidence in pre-orders. I think Lucid feels that most consumers are interested in the driving performance of their electric SUV. Like, that's what's been holding them back on ordering.
Yeah.
But what I feel is it could drive like a trash can, and they could still sell a ton of them if it had the world's best software. That's Tesla Model X. Yeah. Tesla Model X does not drive well. I mean, we had the Plaid here for 3 months or something. Yeah. None of us wanted to drive it. The doors were annoying. The suspension was bad. You couldn't stay. There was no track mode. It was fast in a straight line, but it had half shaft wobble, and it felt like the whole thing was about to fall apart. It objectively did not drive well. But it was still a fantastic SUV because of the software. Right. And so this is like the complete opposite. It's got all the space in the world. It's got, styling subjective. It drives better than any SUV on the market. And I still feel like don't have the confidence that the software and ADAS is up to spec, because we haven't experienced it.
Yeah, we've done a lot of these types of driving situations where we're invited by an automaker to test a car, and we've seen varying levels of car readiness, and this was probably the worst ready I've seen software, but also like one of the best ready for driving. So that was interesting. I mean, I drove Q6 e-tron 8 months ago at this point, 10 months ago, and and it was a very, very early pre-production. They're like, this is not fully ready, but the software was done. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what's funny is I have to go to the Q6 e-tron drive soon. And it's like, okay, well, we already have one at the dealer, but we can't drive it, I guess. That's a whole other story. But
that's a whole other story. Audi literally called our dealer to tell them to not let us drive the car.
So weird.
So we're going to have Timon show up to test drive it and bring the car over to the office.
Right. But yeah, software, we've already said this multiple times, just it's rough. And it doesn't give me full confidence because of, we entered this gravity testing knowing everything we had learned from air with our concerns that we had done in this whole 1.5-hour video of how the air was not quite like sorted.
We had zero concerns about the driving performance of the air.
Yeah.
Zero. In fact, that was the best part about the car. And it is here with the Gravity as well. So I think maybe the past performance of the air software makes us even more nervous about the Gravity.
100%.
Because they have not yet proven that they can make a fully baked package.
Yeah.
And like the fact that even now air, 3 years after start of production, whatever, has auto lane change, cool. It works like 40% of the time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Gravity, that needs to be sorted. And I texted some of my friends who work at Lucid too. I'm like, drives freaking great. Wow. What an like absolute props to the team for building. Like if this was 10 years ago before anyone cared about software in cars, this would be the clear choice.
Right.
And it still is the clear choice for those types of people, which maybe I fall into that category because I love driving performance.
Yeah.
But I don't know, dude. I just think they really, that software team better be not sleeping. That's all I can say. And they didn't seem nervous. That was the sad part. Dave didn't seem nervous. He's like, oh yeah, we got this.
Which is why my theory is everything's ready. It just had not yet been compiled into Lucid Gravity 1.0 final release, golden, whatever they call it.
They cannot deliver those to customers without working functions.
Yeah.
That's just that's the worst situation for them that could come out of this.
If they do,
they need to hold the cars.
We'll just do one of those Cybertruck podcasts where it's like, here's all the things we didn't have at launch.
Yeah, we did it with our it was really annoying as a Cybertruck owner.
Yeah.
To not, like, I would have rathered them, like, obviously we needed to get the Cybertruck early for content if we were going to get one, and we did. And so, but that meant we drove it with no driver assistance, no lane centering. It had, I forget the list of other stuff that it didn't have that, like, now 8 months into ownership it's got.
Yeah.
But now I'm done with it. Now, now it's like, okay, we can move on.
Right.
And I signed a thing that I have to keep it for a year, but I really hope that's not the case for Gravity.
Yeah.
So just to summarize our experience with Gravity, yeah, we basically parked it, filmed the video, and then went home. So there's nothing more to our trip than that.
Yeah.
The pros of the Gravity are packaging is unbelievable. I can fit 1, 2, 3 in front and behind of each other of me with knee room to spare.
Yep.
It's got unbelievable packaging, and even the way the second row seats fold is really cool, where like the bottom cushion moves forward and down.
Yep.
And that way it can get as low as possible. So even though the overall height of the Gravity is quite low, the floor is really low.
Yeah. Therefore,
like, Walter would have no problem getting in there. And you can even drop the air suspension lower.
Right.
To make the loading height. I mean, the loading height's minivan low. It's really good. Should also mention it'll have dog mode, keep climate, camp mode, off-road mode that shows battery and motor temps and some cool software like that. So that's all cool. They kind of have that stuff already dialed in from air. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
What other pros? The driving is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it looks pretty good. I mean,
cons, price seems reasonable.
It's still expensive, and that's still, like you said, so much is riding on their next smaller, more affordable car.
The mid-size.
Just like Tesla. I mean, a lot of people are comparing Tesla and Lucid, but it's like, that's a hard comparison right now because Model S and X don't sell super well, but it's not Tesla's bread and butter, so who cares? The Gravity, I'm hoping sells well, but it is expensive. But at the same time, there's people ordering Escalades that are comparable in price if you go for a top trim.
I don't think for what we experienced, assuming software and ADAS works fine, I don't think it's
no. I think you're right. I think it's so much car for the money. It is still just objectively a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. Of course.
I think there are a lot of people who were maybe waiting and saw the under $80,000 thing at the unveiling. They're like, okay, I won't order my Kia EV9 GT line.
Yeah, this is not an EV9 Ioniq 9 competitor.
Yeah,
and the thing is, you can get an electric family SUV that like maybe isn't as smartly packaged or nearly as good driving as this, but like if you just need to haul the kids around town.
And they avoided the EV9 and the Ioniq 9 in their comparison situation. So.
Yes, they didn't mention those at all.
No.
But they mentioned premium ones. These are not premium cars.
Yeah.
But EV9, the price gets up to 80.
Yeah. The cons are like tentative because we couldn't try any of it.
The cons, I think, is apprehension on their ability to complete the software.
Yeah. I'm worried about how perfectly integrated the app is.
I'll just say this. They didn't do anything to instill confidence in software when we were there.
Yeah.
We asked them a few times where they're just like, it'll come.
Yeah.
But I'm like, when?
Yeah. So like software and ADAS and app integration, those are huge pieces of ownership.
There's a new app coming.
Yeah.
We got to preview that. That was cool.
Yeah. So those are huge pieces of ownership. And I am not, like you said, not fully confident. And I'm hopeful, but that isn't really
my suggestion is they hold deliveries until it's done. Mm-hmm. It's going to suck from a financial point of view, I imagine, but that car needs to be dialed before they deliver it.
That would alleviate headaches and bad press. So
yeah, the press is going to be really not good if they deliver an unfinished product.
Yep.
Do you think financially they can wait?
I don't know. I'm not a good company analyst. I think so. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah.
The Saudis will fund them until I don't know.
I have no clue. I don't know how they work. I don't know anything about their financials. I just review the cars, which I think is good. I think we just stay in our lane.
Yeah.
There's a million people that comment on everything we post on Lucid with $LCID.
It's so annoying.
And I hate it.
I hate it. I also hate the $TSLA. Like, yeah. I hate them all.
Yeah. Let's just talk about cars, yo. Isn't that a show, Salamandrin's show?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Forgot about him.
Yeah. I loved his stuff. I don't see his videos much anymore. I think he's got a Rivian.
Yeah.
Lives in Austin.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the end of the podcast. That was our Lucid Gravity experience. Probably more detailed here than even in the main video.
I think so. This is like the true gravity breakdown. Mm-hmm. Forgot to mention 0 to 60, 3.5 seconds, which is not quite gravity. Gravity, if you drop something and it falls with gravity,
it's like 1.7?
No, it's 2.6 seconds. Seconds 0 to 60.
So Gravity Sapphire better accelerate at, what is the meters per second squared?
9.8 meters per second squared. If Gravity Sapphire can do that, awesome.
There might be a point at which Gravity Grand Touring can hit 9.8 meters per second squared of acceleration throughout that curve, though.
Possibly, you're right, because it launched a bit less hard.
Yeah, and then built up.
Yeah.
The chassis guys also made it seem like maybe it was bad surface, but I didn't really feel wheel slip.
Yeah.
And until we hit a bump.
Yeah.
And then it cut power a little bit. I just feel like our Grand Touring, when you get that thing in a launch mode, it's like you just dumped the clutch. It's just like, obviously it doesn't, but it's just like, boom, it airs everything.
Even at lower state of charge.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But that's Gravity. That's it. That's a long show.
I can't wait to get it here and test it.
Right.
We didn't even talk much about the range, but range to me doesn't matter. It's all charging performance.
Yeah.
The range is not, there's no singular number of range. So like in my road trip out in the Lucid Air, just as an example, it's rated at 512 miles. We have some degradation on our pack. It fully charged to like 501, I think. So we lost a few miles in 15,000 miles. But on my first leg, I went 100 to 10% in 287 miles.
Wow.
Just sitting on the highway.
Yeah.
And it was cold. It was 34 degrees out or something.
Yep.
So there, your 500-mile car just turned into a 300-mile car.
With cold and a tiny bit of degradation.
Yeah.
And some high speed, but I mean, it's,
But that's why you're driving.
Road tripping.
That's why you can't just think range. And then you have to recharge. That's why I love the Taycan so much. It gives up on the range.
Yeah.
But you can recharge. And so the theory in the Lucid is, if conditions are perfect, if you're in California with lower speed limits, with traffic pushing the air out of the way, and with a temperate climate, that is genuinely the Lucid Air, a 450 to 500 mile car.
Yep.
Going down the 5.
Yep.
And you can skip all the chargers. But if you're anywhere else in the country where you're just like the only car on the road, you're not getting an airflow advantage, and you're driving 85 miles an hour, which is what everyone does, then the range doesn't matter. Then I just want to charge real fast.
Yeah.
Let me just burn juice and charge fast. It's, that's, and I really hope the Gravity charging performance is great. They keep telling me it'll be much better than the Air.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be even Macan good.
Yeah.
We'll have to see.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. I think it could be good, and that's probably a whole other podcast, is like their charging strategy. It would be great to talk to Eric about that.
It sounds like we'll hear details on charging early next year.
Yeah.
Which is after start of production.
Yeah.
So we just need to get one early, and then we don't have to wait for their announcements.
And when will the new app come out? Like, there's so much in works in Lucid, which is exciting, but like, I don't know the timeline and the fallout of everything. So
what it really feels like to me is like we really need to go there like every quarter.
We do.
And just spend a day and like take an hour out of every exec or engineer or whoever's time and just say, okay, 1 hour every 3 months, just spend it with the out of spec guy so we can get a pulse on what's happening there.
We just need to film the Lucid Chronicles. I don't know how many Chronicles, but like, do it all.
Yeah, they did the Lucid Tech Talk thing.
Yeah.
It would do so much better on out of spec.
Yeah.
And we
because
can
those
make
videos were great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, Peter knows his stuff. So
Peter's great.
And they all do. A lot of them do.
They're all great.
Yeah. So Lucid, we're coming back.
Yeah. I really think we need to spend more time with them. And if anything, just to instill more confidence in us and also our viewers. And I think just celebrate their achievements, because they are still a small car company.
And they do cool stuff.
And they're building the best SUV on the market from a driving perspective.
Yep.
And I feel like that's why they win so many awards and win over journalists, because they drive so well.
Yeah.
But journalists really are drivers. A lot of them. Some of them really just say whatever about a car.
Right.
But
some hyper focus on software. So they really need to have the whole package.
They need the whole package.
So
yeah. Can we end this thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just hit end, Hyman. Just cut us off.
Thanks for watching another episode of the Outspec podcast. This is really the Gravity one. I think.
Yeah.
Our video kind of sucked, but we were rushed. But I'm glad we did it.
Yeah.
Huge shout out to Lucid for letting us have an opportunity to go there, play with the Gravity, and learn about everything going on at the company. Shout out to our viewers for making that possible, because without them, they would have never invited us.
Yep.
And that's the end of the show. See you on another one again soon.